Chapter 426. Jun Xiaoyaro did not feel that it was a pity that he did not kill Long Aotian. Because as long as Long Aotian continued to oppose him, he would definitely die in the end. It was only a matter of time before he died. However, before Long Aotian died, he might be able to give Jun Xiaoyaro a pleasant surprise and gain. Therefore, when Long Aotian escaped, Jun Xiaoyaro was not only not annoyed, but also relaxed. Cast a long line to catch a big fish. He would kill him after he fattened up. Now, the 100,000-foot Dao Lake was quiet again. The immortal ancient creatures who had rushed in with Long Aotian were all killed by the evil spirits and Rakshasas in the gates of hell. Terrifying, too terrifying. The forbidden first talent of Zulong could not resist at all in the hands of the Jun family's son of God. All the geniuses in the outside world felt like they were in a dream. They thought that they would see an exciting battle between two giants. In the end, it was a one-sided slaughter. Even Long Aotian's 7 dragon essences were taken by Jun Xiaoyaro. As for the immortal ancient beings who did not make a move, they also fell into a long period of shock and could not regain their senses. That was the young king of the dragon human race, Crown Prince Ao Guang. Even if it was just an illusion, it could easily kill a true immortal realm genius. However, he could not stop Jun Xiaoyao's punch. Because the powerhouses of the immortal ancient races could not leave their land. Therefore, the young kings of the 4 major races became the leaders of their respective races. Before those ancient freaks who were sleeping in the immortal ancient world completely woke up. The 4 young kings of the immortal ancient were the strongest existences. And now, Jun Xiaoyaro destroyed Crown Prince Ao Guang's illusion with a punch. It was enough to make everyone tremble. Jun Xiaoyaro himself did not think much of it. Even if Ao Guang appeared in front of him, Jun Xiaoyaro would not be afraid at all. Now, no one dared to challenge Jun Xiaoyao's authority. Jun Xiaoyaro calmly put the ancient tree of Dao and the dragon corpse into his bag. Princess Longji's gaze was fixed on the dragon corpse the entire time. Right now, Princess Longji was like a little girl who saw something she liked but couldn't get it. Jun Xiaoyaro saw this scene, but he didn't say anything. Princess Longji only looked away reluctantly after the dragon corpse was put away. She glanced at Jun Xiaoyaro, trying to gauge their strength. He realized that it would be difficult for him to snatch the dragon corpse from Jun Xiaoyaro. Damn it! Princess Longji was annoyed, like a bullied punching bag. She hated Long Aotian, but she didn't like Jun Xiaoyaro either. The best outcome would be for the 2 of them to die together. Unfortunately, Long Aotian was too weak. He could not threaten Jun Xiaoyaro at all. Is it over? Jun Xiaoyaro muttered to himself as he looked at the calm Dao Lake. For Jun Xiaoyaro, this kind of harvest was not bad. Just the Dao origin ancient tree alone was priceless. Not to mention, there were many other opportunities that he could give to the people around him to help them improve their cultivation. Xiaoyao, sir, son of God. Not far away, Jun Mulan, Jun Shuahuang, and Jun Shiyu arrived. Their faces were filled with joy. They had plundered all the treasures in their respective Dao lakes. They had also obtained treasures that were suitable for them. It was a great achievement. It's about time. Let's leave, Jun Xiaoyaro said. The other geniuses and creatures of immortal ancient shook their heads secretly. They couldn't even get any leftovers, let alone meat and soup. They were just looking. Jun Xiaoyao's domineering and powerful aura was deeply rooted in their hearts. Just as Jun Xiaoyaro and the others were about to leave, suddenly, the Dao Lake began to tremble again. What's going on? Is the Dao Lake going to erupt again? How is that possible? Didn't they say it would only erupt once? The commotion caused all the living beings who were about to leave to stop in their tracks. Jun Xiaoyaro and the others also stopped in their tracks. This. Jun Xiaoyaro pondered. Jun Xiaoyao's 100,000-foot Dao Lake was not the only one that was trembling. The other 3 Dao lakes seemed to have resonated and were trembling at the same time. Even the 1,000-foot Dao lakes and 1,000-foot Dao lakes in the other regions were trembling. Could this be the legendary second resonance eruption? An immortal ancient creature said in shock. The so-called resonance eruption meant that a great opportunity was about to appear. All the Tao lakes in the entire immortal ancient Tao lake region were resonating. This kind of second resonance eruption was too rare. There had only been a few since ancient times. But this time, Jun Xiaoyao had encountered it. Second resonance eruption? Jun Xiaoyao's eyes revealed a strange look. His luck wasn't too bad. If that's the case, then the opportunity of a second resonance eruption might be even rarer and more precious than the first, Jun Mulan said. Before she came to the Tao lakes, she also had some understanding of the immortal ancient Tao lakes. The probability of a second resonance eruption was too low. That's right. Let's see what good things will come out. Jun Xiaoyao smiled. Seeing Jun Xiaoyao and the others stay, the surrounding people looked like they had been hit by a dog. Jun Xiaoyao had taken all the benefits, and the others could not even get a share of the soup. Mother **, I'm so unlucky. Everyone was cursing in their hearts, but they did not dare to show it on their faces. Now, they could only watch to satisfy their cravings. The entire immortal ancient Tao lakes resonated. This aura fluctuation was extremely powerful, more than 10 times stronger than the previous eruption. What kind of treasure will come out this time? It must be a treasure that we can't imagine. Many people were looking forward to it. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes also revealed a look of curiosity. His standards were very high, and ordinary treasures could not move him. Even the ancient Tao source tree, Jun Xiaoyao only felt that it was not bad, and was not at a particularly stunning level. Let me see what the true treasure of the immortal ancient Tao lakes is. Jun Xiaoyao stood with his hands behind his back and smiled calmly. The preparation time for this second eruption was much longer than the first. Jun Xiaoyao was also very patient and waited. However, the fluctuations of the immortal ancient Tao lakes were much stronger than before, and could not be limited to this area. At this moment, in another realm, a young figure, who was refining an opportunity, suddenly opened his eyes. This was a young man with a powerful aura. He was wearing golden divine armor, and his black hair was loose. There was a divine halo behind his head, which released endless holy light. He looked very solemn, and his aura was mysterious and deep, making people have the urge to bow down and worship him. That aura is... The young man muttered to himself. His eyes flashed with a strange light, and he took a step forward. He flew in the direction of that aura. In the direction of the immortal ancient Tao lakes. In another treasure land. A man in luxurious reddish-gold robes also sensed this aura. A pair of wings appeared on his back, burning with divine flames and releasing a divine rainbow, as if he could burn the heavens. This is the aura of a supreme opportunity. How can I miss it? The man chuckled, and the wings on his back flapped. Divine flames surged, and his entire body turned into a streak of light and flew away. In a secret realm in a mountain valley, a beautiful figure walked out with light steps. If Jun Xiaoyao was here, he would definitely recognize that this woman was the goddess of the demon god palace, Yang Rumeng. Chapter 427. Yang Rumeng's features were perfect, and her body was graceful and flawless. Her skin was as white as congealed cream, and as smooth as butter. She wore a pink dress, and her hair was like a waterfall, falling straight to her hips. Her waist was slender like a willow, and her legs were long and slender, as white and delicate as porcelain. Yang Rumeng's entire person was perfect, and her temperament was somewhat cold and ethereal. If one didn't know her identity, they wouldn't even think that she was a woman of the demon race. She was as pure and holy as a fairy. That aura is definitely a great opportunity, Yang Rumeng thought to herself, and a demonic look flashed across her beautiful eyes. That demonic look didn't seem to match Yang Rumeng's temperament. About half a day passed. The entire immortal ancient Tao lake gradually began to boil, and the resonance grew stronger and stronger. Jun Xiaoyao was very patient, and he was waiting. Beside him, Jun Mulan frowned and said, Xiaoyao, the fluctuations of the immortal ancient Tao lake are too intense. If this continues, it might attract prodigies from other regions. When that time comes, there will be trouble. The entire immortal ancient world was very large. The region where the immortal ancient Tao lake was located was only one of the many. In other regions, There were also opportunities that weren't inferior to the immortal ancient Tao Lake. However, the second eruption of the immortal ancient Tao Lake this time was too great. It was inevitable that prodigies from other regions would be attracted. When that time came, the situation would become a little complicated. It doesn't matter. Who cares who comes? If they don't know what's good for them, just kill them. Zhang Xiaoyao's expression was calm, and his tone was casual. Zhang Mulan also clicked her tongue. With strength, one could do whatever they wanted. Even if other prodigies found opportunities, they would be in fear and trepidation, afraid that others would take them away, so they would hide them. A man's wealth was his own ruin. However, for Zhang Xiaoyao, he didn't need to hide at all. If it was his, then it was his. If it wasn't his, then it was his. Finally, another hour passed. The 4 100,000-foot Tao lakes surged with great waves at the same time. Like a waterspout, the 4 Tao lakes spat out pillars of water that connected to each other to form a pillar of water that reached the heavens. At the same time, an incomparably mysterious aura gushed out. In the middle of the water column, there was a ball of light. Within the light, one could faintly see a drop of blood. That was right. The second resonance eruption of the immortal ancient Tao lakes didn't produce any other treasures. Only one drop of blood appeared. However, it was precisely this drop of blood that caused the aura of the entire world to become extraordinary. That drop of blood seemed to reflect the heavens. The sun, the moon, and the stars seemed to shrink within it. A drop of blood seemed to contain an entire world. What is that? Sovereign's blood? No, it doesn't seem like it. It feels even more terrifying. Why do I feel like there's an immortal chi permeating the air? It's as if I'm about to ascend. In all directions, countless geniuses and creatures of immortal ancient cried out in alarm, their minds shaken. It was just a drop of blood, but it had such an effect. It was as if the world had changed. One drop of blood, one world. That is, not to mention the ordinary geniuses, even Zhang Mulan and the other echelon cultivators were extremely shocked. With their background, it was reasonable to say that no treasure would make them so surprised. However, Zhang Mulan and the others were also extremely shocked. That drop of blood's aura was too extraordinary. Whose blood is that? Zhang Xuehuang was also in a daze. It's stronger than a sovereign, and it contains an immortal chi. Could it be a drop of a remnant immortal's blood? Zhang Xiaoyao murmured. What, a remnant immortal's blood? Zhang Mulan and the others took a deep breath. Anything related to immortals was extraordinary, let alone a remnant immortal's blood. A true immortal's blood should have more energy than this. However, this drop of blood far surpasses a sovereign's. It has a trace of immortal chi. It's clearly not the blood of a great emperor. Then, it can only be the remnant immortal's blood. Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes were deep. One had to admit that Zhang Xiaoyao's vision was very high. He was able to determine something that ordinary people could not. Zhang Mulan and the others were not the only ones in a daze after hearing Zhang Xiaoyao's judgment. The surrounding people almost held their breaths. To them, a sovereign's blood was definitely a rare treasure. As for the remnant immortal's blood, they did not even dare to think about it. If this opportunity were to spread, everyone would go crazy. No one could resist the temptation. The value of a drop of a remnant immortal's blood was immeasurable. It was even extremely attractive to experts above the 9 heavens supremacy realm. That's right. The opportunity of the immortal ancient world has finally opened my eyes. Zhang Xiaoyao smiled. A treasure that even he was stunned by had finally appeared. This drop of a remnant immortal's blood was too useful. Its value was immeasurable. It was very useful to Zhang Xiaoyao. It was a treasure he had to obtain. Zhang Xiaoyao raised his hand and grabbed at the remnant immortal's blood. Everyone's eyes were glowing with jealousy. However, the remnant immortal's blood released a repulsive force. Even Zhang Xiaoyao's hand was shaken away. Does the immortal's blood have a spirit? Zhang Xiaoyao was not surprised. It was rumored that a drop of a true immortal's blood was enough to kill a supremacy. Although this drop of remnant immortal's blood had been asleep for an unknown amount of time, it clearly still had a spirit. It was not that easy to subdue. Zhang Xiaoyao's dharmic power surged as he grabbed at the remnant immortal's blood again. At this moment, there was a change in the distant sky. In the east, endless golden divine light flickered. It was incomparably dazzling, illuminating the sky. A figure, like a golden divine king, stepped through the air and arrived. The young man was wearing golden divine armor. His black hair was scattered, and a divine halo behind his head was like a sun, releasing endless light. Every step he took, the void would set off golden ripples. The fluctuations were extremely powerful. He is. Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes flashed. It's the sacred sect's son. He actually appeared. A genius from the outside world exclaimed. The sacred sect's son was an absolutely powerful genius, the successor of an imperishable sect. He and Saintess Bei Mihu both came from the sacred sect. However, his strength was obviously much stronger than Bei Mihu's. At this moment, the western sky was suddenly filled with fiery clouds. The sky seemed to be burning, and it was crimson red. A ray of light flew through the air and stopped in the void. It was a young man in a crimson gold robe. He had a pair of wings on his back. As he flapped them, a sea of fire filled the sky. It's the sacred sect's son, Huang Tiange. Those geniuses from the outside world who knew Huang Tiange widened their eyes. The sacred sect's son had just appeared, and Huang Tiange had also come. However, the shock was not over yet. In the southern sky, a beautiful figure flew over. Her figure was graceful, like a fairy from the moon palace. Her perfect and flawless face made people involuntarily indulge in it. It's the demon god palace's goddess, Yang Rumeng. She's here too. Endless exclamations came from all directions. Who would have thought that the fluctuations from the immortal ancient Dao Lake would attract three successors of imperishable sects at the same time? The sacred sect's son, the demon god palace's goddess, the sacred sect's son, Huang Tiange. These three people, whether in the immortal region or the immortal ancient world, were extremely famous. Now, they had all appeared to fight for the great opportunity. However, the one who had monopolized the opportunity was the Jun family's son of God. Now, there was a good show to watch. Chapter 428. That ripple is, the sacred hierophant, Huang Tiange, and Yang Rumeng had just arrived. Their eyes immediately fell on the drop of immortal remnant's blood. What a powerful energy, with a hint of the immortal path's aura. Could it be the immortal remnant's blood? That's right, it's the immortal remnant's blood. Haha, I didn't expect to encounter such an opportunity. The sacred hierophant and Huang Tiange's eyes lit up. On the other side, Yang Rumeng's beautiful eyes also lit up. Then, her eyes subconsciously shifted, and she saw the white-robed figure trying to suppress the immortal remnant's blood. It's him. Yang Rumeng's eyes widened, and her delicate body tensed up. If there was one person that Yang Rumeng did not want to meet in her life, it would most likely be Zhang Xiaoyao. The scene in the lower realm was still vivid in her mind. Zhang Xiaoyao pinched her long legs and asked her what her true form was. In fact, he wanted to eat her. That's right, he wanted to eat her. There was no special connection. He literally wanted to eat her up. Because Yang Rumeng was from the monster clan, her true form was naturally not human, so she could be eaten. Now, seeing this figure again, Yang Rumeng felt as if she had seen a demon. However, feeling the powerful ripple of the immortal remnant's blood, Yang Rumeng gritted her teeth and did not leave. Huang Tiange and the sacred hierophant also noticed Zhang Xiaoyao. It's him, Zhang Xiaoyao. Huang Tiange's eyes flashed. The sacred hierophant's eyes also flashed. He was in seclusion to refine the opportunity, so he did not know that Bei Mihu was dead. If he had known, he would not have been so calm. Zhang Xiaoyao also knew that the three of them were coming. However, he did not do anything, but continued to suppress the drop of immortal remnant's blood. As for Zhun Mulan, Zhun Shuahuang, and the others, their eyes were filled with vigilance as they stood guard outside. Suddenly, Huang Tianji and the saint heard two telepathic messages from the crowd outside the palace. Huang Tianji and the sacred son were startled when they heard the message. Coldness began to gather in his eyes. Zhang Xiaoyao, Are you not moved by our arrival? Huang Tiange was the first to speak. Zhang Xiaoyao's expression was calm as he continued to suppress the remnant immortal's blood. He didn't put Huang Zi in his eyes at all. You. Huang Tianji's face darkened and she continued, you killed Huang Xuani and Feng Qingling from Wanhuang Spiritual Mountain? Zhang Xiaoyao was non-committal, not bothering to reply. The saint took a step forward as well. He was like a golden ancient god descending into the world. His holy aura made people have the urge to prostrate themselves in worship. At this moment, his eyes were very cold, like an eternal cold abyss. Bei Mihu is dead. Did you kill him? The saint's tone was as cold as ice. Faced with their questioning, Zhang Xiaoyao finally spoke. It was just a simple word. Get lost. Hearing this, Huang Tianji and the saint's eyes widened in shock. They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen such an arrogant person. Now that the successors of the three immortal forces had appeared, Zhang Xiaoyao still looked indifferent. Why don't the two of you attack together? As for who the remnant immortal's blood belongs to, how about we divide it later? The saint's voice was filled with murderous intent. Zhang Xiaoyao had killed the saintess Bei Mihu. As the saint's son, it would be unreasonable if he didn't take revenge. Sure. Huang Tianji nodded slightly. As a core genius of Wanhuang Spiritual Mountain, Huang Tianji's strength was far superior to Huang Xuani and Feng Qingling. Yang Yu Meng hesitated slightly. To be honest, she didn't want to provoke Zhang Xiaoyao. After all, she knew Zhang Xiaoyao's strength when they were in the lower plane. He would only be stronger now. However, the remnant immortal's blood was too attractive. No one would turn a blind eye to it. The fight between the Sky Prides was about the opportunity. If they didn't fight now, they wouldn't have a chance when the Emperor Road opened. All right. After thinking for a while, Yang Rumeng nodded. Even if she didn't want to offend Zhang Xiaoyao, she had to fight for the opportunity. The three immortal forces' successors attacked at the same time. The energy waves were indescribable. Behind the saint's head, the divine ring spun. Waves of dharmic powers swept out like a tidal wave. Huang Tianji had the divine phoenix immortal flame. She flapped her wings and a sea of fire swept out. Yang Rumeng had the demon emperor body. She gathered the power of thousands of demons. Her slender hands cracked the sky. The three Sky Prides attacked at the same time. They wanted to fight for the remnant immortal's blood. How dare you? Zhang Mulan, Zhang Xuehuang, and the others shouted. They wanted to stop the three Sky Prides. However, at that moment, a figure in a white robe changed direction. He crossed the void and charged toward the three Sky Prides. It was Zhang Xiaoyao. Not only are you noisy, but you're also annoying. Do you want to die? Zhang Xiaoyao's handsome face was extremely cold. When he obtained an opportunity, he hated it when others coveted it. Zhang Xiaoyao pushed the void with one hand, creating a wave of dharmic powers. He was really angry. If Zhang Xiaoyao was angry, the consequences would be severe. Boom! A deafening sound exploded in the sky. It was as if the stars had exploded. The dharmic powers were dazzling. Zhang Xiaoyao fought against the three Sky Prides alone. After the initial exchange, the saint and the other two were all forced back. On the other hand, Zhang Xiaoyao didn't even take a step back. Peak true immortal realm. The three Sky Prides' faces changed. Their cultivation was at the late stage true immortal realm. If they unleashed their full cultivation, they could challenge those of a higher level. Even so, they were at an absolute disadvantage when facing Zhang Xiaoyao. How could his cultivation level have increased to such a level? Yang Rumeng was extremely surprised. They all knew that Zhang Xiaoyao wasn't the first to enter the immortal ancient world when it opened. His cultivation level should have been behind the others. However, Zhang Xiaoyao's strength had now far surpassed theirs. Zhang Xiaoyao stretched out his 5 fingers and used the Lightning Emperor's great divine power. Terrifying lightning condensed into stars that floated in the air. As Zhang Xiaoyao's fingers moved, they suddenly fell toward the three Sky Prides. The saint's body shook, and light flowed all over his body. True Lord Gulen, heavenly judgment. The divine ring behind the saint's head spun, and a terrifying shadow of a deity appeared behind him. The saint's faith was the legendary true Lord Gulen. However, in Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes, a deity was just a slightly more powerful person. He used the Lightning Emperor's great divine power to attack the saint. On the other side, Huang Tiange made her move. Torrential flames swept out like a huge wave. This was his great divine power, the Phoenix Immortal Flame. It could burn everything in the world. Zhang Xiaoyaro stretched out his other hand, and the seven-colored Tushi Ancient Emperor's flame surged out. It clashed with the Phoenix Immortal Flame, and the temperature of the heavens and earth rose rapidly. Yang Rumeng sighed and made her move as well. 10,000 demons seal. She waved her hand, and the shadows of 10,000 demons appeared. They turned into a seal that was 100 feet long, and it suppressed Zhang Xiaoyaro. Yang Rumeng, looks like you've forgotten about what happened in the lower world. If that's the case, you'll stay here forever. Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes were indifferent. He didn't give Yang Rumeng any preferential treatment because of her beauty. Anyone who dared to steal Zhang Xiaoyao's opportunity must die. Chapter 429. Zhang Xiaoyaro fought against the three geniuses alone, and he was not at all intimidated. He used the Thunder Emperor's great technique to fight against the saint and forced him to retreat. Then, the Tushi Ancient Emperor's flame clashed with Huang Tiange's undying fire of the divine phoenix, and the void seemed to be burning. Zhang Xiaoyao's body shook again, and he used his mana immunity to dispel Yang Rumeng's attack. If it were any other geniuses, it would be almost impossible to fight against the heirs of the three immortal forces at the same time. However, Zhang Xiaoyaro had done just that. Not only that, but he did it with ease, and he did it without any difficulty. Oh my God, is the son of God of the Zhang family going to conquer the entire immortal ancient? All the geniuses from the outside world were stunned. Zhang Xiaoyaro had just gone on a killing spree and defeated many geniuses. Now, he was fighting against the three immortal descendants, and he had the upper hand. No wonder he is the number one of the younger generation in the Huangtian mystic realm. Not only has he never been defeated, but he has never been injured, the crowd exclaimed. If Zhang Xiaoyaro were to get his hands on that drop of blood, just how much would his powers soar? No one could predict. Therefore, many people present hoped that Zhang Xiaoyaro would not get this drop of blood. This person is just like the rumors. After the initial exchange of blows, the disdain in the eyes of the saint and Huang Tiange had completely disappeared. What replaced it was extreme seriousness. Before, they had heard that Zhang Xiaoyaro was the number one of the younger generation in the Huangtian mystic realm. Regarding this title, the saint and Huang Tiange were extremely disdainful. However, it was only after fighting Zhang Xiaoyaro that they came to realize what was going on. This title was not in vain. Zhang Xiaoyaro gave off too much pressure, as if he was the boss of the world. Even the arrogant saint and Huang Tiange had no choice but to join forces. True Lord Gulen above, I borrow your power to destroy the heretic. The saint was chanting. His ability was very unique. Not only was it magical power, but it was also mixed with the power of faith. The divine halo behind his head released endless light, and the image of a god appeared behind him. The saint struck out with his palm, and the god's shadow behind him also struck out with his palm at the same time. Zhang Xiaoyaro raised his hand and blasted out the man-ruler seal. Behind him, an emperor's shadow also appeared. The emperor and the deity collided. The space trembled, and huge waves surged in the surrounding Dao Lake. Huang Tianji attacked again. The pair of wings on her back that were burning with undying flames were flapping. Flaming feathers shot out like a rain of fire. Zhang Xiaoyaro raised his hand and activated the devouring god demonic art. A devouring vortex appeared and sucked in the rain of fire. Yang Rumeng bit her lip and continued to attack. She pushed her demon emperor body to the extreme and thousands of demonic shadows seemed to appear around her. Sky Demon 8 Arts. Yang Rumeng used the ultimate technique of the demon god palace. Demon chi surged and thousands of demon shadows appeared, tearing apart the sky. Zhang Xiaoyaro resisted the saint with one hand and Huang Tiange with the other. Logically speaking, he would not be able to free himself to deal with Yang Rumeng. However, Zhang Xiaoyao's expression remained calm. The bones of supremacy in his chest shone. The light of calamity shot out, shattering many demon shadows along the way. The bones of supremacy. Yang Rumeng's expression changed. She hurriedly turned around to defend herself. At the same time, her heart trembled slightly. Zhang Xiaoyao not only had the sacred body of the ancients, but he also had the bones of supremacy in his chest. He had two unique constitutions, which was simply unbelievable. His combat strength was much higher than that of his peers. After the light of calamity blasted Yang Rumeng away, Zhang Xiaoyao attacked the saint first. He was surrounded by lightning and used the finger of the Thunder Emperor. It was as if the Thunder Emperor had descended. He extended a finger and crushed the saint. True Lord Gulen, divine light illuminates all. The saint was like a god of light, releasing endless brilliance. At the same time, there was a strange power of faith surging. A golden tide swept out and collided with Zhang Xiaoyao's moves. Endless ripples of magic power spread out. The wings of freedom extended behind Zhang Xiaoyao's back. He flapped his wings and moved at extreme speed. He appeared in front of the saint in an instant as if he had teleported. An ordinary-looking punch was thrown out. That punch was infused with 10 billion divine power of the divine elephant overpowering force. Brute force could take down 10. Feeling the fist aura that tore through the air, the saint formed a golden seal and collided with Zhang Xiaoyao's punch. Bam! The saint's face twisted the moment the two fists collided. The arm that he had punched out with was directly smashed apart. With a cracking sound, blood spurted out. Zhang Xiaoyao kicked out again. It seemed to have surpassed the speed of sound. It made a sharp whistling sound and kicked the saint's chest. The saint was wearing the golden divine armor. Even so, he still suffered from the terrifying impact. It was as if an ancient divine elephant had crushed his chest, causing him to cough up blood with pieces of his internal organs. He was kicked away like a kite with a broken string. The golden divine armor on his chest also cracked, and he was in an extremely sorry state. Let's go. The saint's eyes were filled with shock. He took the opportunity to leave. He finally understood that with his current strength, even if he joined forces with Huang Tiange and the others, they would not be able to defeat Zhang Xiaoyao. Moreover, Zhang Mulan and the other echelon cultivators were waiting for an opportunity. It was almost impossible to take the blood of the remnant immortal from the Zhang family. Everyone's eyes widened. They did not expect the saint to take the opportunity to run. Then, Zhang Xiaoyao did not stop. He flapped his wings of freedom and turned to Huang Tiange again. Huang Tiange's expression changed. He did not expect the saint to run away. Huang Tiange flapped his wings and wanted to leave as well. However, Zhang Xiaoyao had already appeared in front of him. Phoenix summoning hand. Huang Tiange threw out a punch with the divine phoenix immortal fire. Its power was monstrous. Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes were cold. He used the fist of the 6 paths of reincarnation and punched down. Crack! Huang Tiange's arm was broken. Not only that, his ribs were also punched through by Zhang Xiaoyao. Huang Tiange coughed up blood violently. Many of his bones were broken. Zhang Xiaoyao reached out again and grabbed one of Huang Tiange's wings. He tore it apart. Ah! Huang Tianji shrieked in agony. Crimson blood spurted out, still surrounded by flames. Huang Tiange broke free of one of his wings and flew away with his remaining wing. He even used a space escape talisman. His body turned into a flash of light and escaped. This scene made everyone speechless. Especially the scene where Zhang Xiaoyao tore off Huang Tiange's wings. It was shocking and horrifying. The saint of the Wanhuang Spirit Mountain was crushed by Zhang Xiaoyao like he was tearing apart a chicken. Everyone was tongue-tied and their minds were numb. They had seen powerful people but not this powerful. Huang Tianji had already flown far away. Zhang Xiaoyao finally looked at Yang Rumeng. Yang Rumeng's perfect and flawless face was completely stiff at this moment. You have not answered the question from last time. What is your true form? Zhang Xiaoyao stood with his hands behind his back, looking calm. But to Yang Rumeng, these words were like the whispers of the devil. Chapter 430. Zhang Xiaoyao did not ask this question for no reason. He really wanted to ask Yang Rumeng what her original form was and then consider whether to eat her. Jun Xiaoyao, I was wrong. I will leave now, Yang Rumeng said with a pale face. Ruyan Ru Meng was such a magnificent and beautiful woman. Using a soft tone to show weakness, it gave people a feeling of pity for her. But unfortunately, Jun Xiaoyao did not buy it. If Yang Ru Meng had only watched from the sidelines and not made a move, Jun Xiaoyao would not have bothered with her. But once she made a move, the nature of the matter would be completely different. Jun Xiaoyao had never been a person who showed mercy to women. He attacked Yang Rumeng. The majestic Dharma power turned into a golden palm, and the fine lines on the palm could be seen. It was like the hand of God, and it suppressed Yang Rumeng. Yang Rumeng gritted her teeth and activated the 8 arts of Sky Demon again. This was the most powerful abhina of the Demon God Palace, and it had 8 variations. Once it was used, the demon chi filled the sky and its power was overwhelming. However, in front of Jun Xiaoyao, this abhina was torn apart like paper. Behind Jun Xiaoyao, the wings of freedom vibrated, and his body turned into a rapid stream of light and flashed in front of Yang Rumeng. He threw a punch without any abhina, but it felt like it was going to penetrate the void. Yang Rumeng's expression changed, and she activated her Demon Emperor body to the extreme. The power of 10,000 demons surged out and pushed out with her hand. Bang! Like a big star exploding, Yang Rumeng let out a muffled groan and retreated rapidly. Her arm felt like it was about to shatter. If not for the Demon Emperor body, her arm might have been shattered by Jun Xiaoyao's punch. However, from this, it could be seen that Jun Xiaoyao did not hold back at all. Jun Xiaoyao, do you really want to do this? Although we had some disagreements in the lower realm, we didn't become mortal enemies. The 2 saints of my Demon God Palace and the Sky Demon Crown Prince are dead. Didn't we not cause you any trouble after that? Yang Rumeng shouted as she retreated. The reason why you didn't look for trouble is because you know in your hearts that even if you wanted to find trouble with this son of God, it would be useless. Jun Xiaoyao's expression was playful. When Yang Rumeng heard this, she was so depressed that she almost vomited blood. Jun Xiaoyao's words could always make people vomit blood. If you were just a bystander, this son of God wouldn't be bothered with you. Unfortunately, you crossed the line. Jun Xiaoyao punched out again. The fist radiance of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist surged in the void. 6 reincarnation vortexes appeared at the same time, trying to pull Yang Rumeng into the cycle of reincarnation. Yang Rumeng was also about to use her trump card. Sky Demon God Slaying Technique. Yang Rumeng shouted as a terrifying demon aura surged behind her. It seemed to form the shadow of a sky demon that was tens of thousands of feet tall. The terrifying scene of a sky demon slaying a god appeared. This was the strongest superpower of the Demon God Palace. It was even stronger than the 8 arts of Sky Demon. By relying on this move, Yang Ru Meng could challenge those of a higher realm and kill even stronger opponents. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes finally showed a hint of fluctuation, but that was it. Demon God Palace's superpower, Sky Demon God Slaying Technique. Interesting. Jun Xiaoyao performed the 6 paths of reincarnation fist again, but this time, it was the complete version of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. The combatant formula, the Man Ruler Seal, the primitive Emperor Dao Sword, the Immortal Slayer Sword Art, the Sky God Spear, and the Lightning Emperor's Finger. Jun Xiaoyao used the 6 paths of reincarnation fist to control the 6 terrifying superpowers and bombarded Yang Rumeng. The fluctuations were simply enough to shatter the heavens with one punch. The 6 paths of reincarnation fist was a supreme fist technique. When the 6 terrifying superpowers were used in the 6 paths of reincarnation fist, the power wasn't just a little bit stronger, but a qualitative change. Facing the complete version of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist, Yang Rumeng felt her heart tremble even though she had used the Sky Demon God Slaying technique. Boom! An indescribably terrifying fluctuation spread out. Just the ripples alone were enough to push back many of the surrounding sky prides. Some even spat out blood. The violent fluctuation caused monstrous waves to rise up in the Dao Lake. In this collision, the shadow of the Sky Demon God Slaying technique was directly torn apart by the fierce fist aura. The aftermath heavily bombarded Yang Ruming's delicate body, causing her red lips to cough out blood again. Her entire aura instantly withered. Although Yang Ruming's sky demon god-slaying technique was strong, it was still a bit wishful thinking to resist Zhang Xiaoyao's complete version of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist. It's over. Zhang Xiaoyao flashed in front of Yang Ruming again and punched her delicate body. Even if she had the demon emperor body, she probably wouldn't be able to withstand this punch and would be torn apart. Seeing Zhang Xiaoyao attack without the slightest scruple, everyone around was speechless. In particular, the sky prides outside were all amazed. Yang Ruming was a woman famous for her beauty in the Huangtian mystic realm. She was the dream lover of many men. Even if she was a demon, it didn't affect her popularity. After all, everyone was a pervert. As long as she was good-looking, not to mention her gender, even her species wasn't a problem. However, facing such a beautiful woman, Zhang Xiaoyao didn't have the slightest bit of soft-heartedness. His methods were extremely decisive. This made people sigh. A woman whose beauty was known far and wide was about to die. Seeing Zhang Xiaoyao's fist coming, Yang Ruming felt the aura of death. She slightly gritted her teeth and silently said in her heart, "Unseal." In an instant, a demonic light flashed in Yang Ruming's beautiful eyes. From her body, the aura of a full-fledged true god suddenly gushed out. Her jade-like hand blasted out, and the surging demon aura exploded. The fluctuations were far stronger than before. Even Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. The fist and the hand collided. Zhang Xiaoyao and Yang Ruming were both knocked back at the same time. Zhang Xiaoyao frowned slightly. At this moment, Yang Ruming's beautiful eyes had a demonic look, and a seductive smile appeared on her face. What a cruel little brother. You really didn't give me any face when you attacked so heavily. Yang Ruming's voice was so sweet that it made one's imagination run wild. Her expression was also charming and seductive, which didn't match her cold and otherworldly temperament at all. Most importantly, her aura and cultivation had suddenly reached the full-fledged true god stage, which was far stronger than before. It seems that you still have a trump card. Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes deepened. Seeing is believing. The son of God of the Zhang family is indeed as handsome and delicious as the rumors say. Yang Ruming stuck out her small lilac tongue and licked her red lips. Who are you? Zhang Xiaoyao asked. Guess. Yang Ruming smiled charmingly. With a twist of her small waist, she directly rushed towards Zhang Xiaoyao and pushed her hand out. Zhang Xiaoyao also threw out a punch. The two of them fought hand-to-hand. Their fists and palms collided, bursting out waves of air. After such a transformation, Yang Ruming was actually able to fight Zhang Xiaoyao. Of course, this was also the reason why Zhang Xiaoyao didn't use his full strength. He was also testing to find out who Yang Ruming was. Yang Ruming's strength was very strong at this moment. Her jade-like leg swept out, bringing out a large number of Demon Clan's runes. Zhang Xiaoyao blocked with his arm. Yang Ruming suddenly smiled. Her pair of slender and smooth jade-like legs wrapped around Zhang Xiaoyao's waist. At the same time, her jade-like arms wrapped around Zhang Xiaoyao's neck like an octopus, trying to imprison him. Do you think you can trap me? Zhang Xiaoyao asked calmly. Although the Demon Emperor's body was strong, it was obviously impossible to imprison his sacred body of the ancients. However, Yang Ruming's next move stunned Zhang Xiaoyao for a moment. She offered her red lips and kissed Zhang Xiaoyao on the side of his face. This scene caused everyone to be stunned. Chapter 431. No one expected to see such a scene. As the two of them fought, Yang Ruming stole a kiss from Zhang Xiaoyao. Taking advantage of me? Zhang Xiaoyao was stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses. He was sure that the Yang Ruming in front of him was not herself. Perhaps there was someone else's power hidden in her body. Of course, according to the rules of the immortal ancient world, even if someone hid their power in Yang Ruming's body, Yang Ruming's strength could not reach a very high level. Zhang Xiaoyao was enough to deal with it. His sacred body of the ancients trembled, and the golden qi and blood surged. Yang Ruming's body was finally shaken off, and Zhang Xiaoyao got rid of her slender legs. Little brother, you are so heartless. I am so sad. Yang Rumeng frowned slightly, looking hurt. You took advantage of me, and you still want to act innocent. Zhang Xiaoyao looked indifferent. There were only a few women who could take advantage of him. Haha, I am very greedy. I don't want to take advantage of you just like that, Yang Rumeng said seductively. Heh. Zhang Xiaoyao smiled and did not say anything. Zhun Mulan, Zhun Shuahuang, and the other women were so angry that their faces turned pale. Was Yang Rumeng flirting with the son of God they worshipped right in front of the women of the Zhun family? This was intolerable. As for the surrounding geniuses of the outside world, they were all envious and jealous. If Zhun Xiaoyao was willing, all the men in the Huangtian mystic realm would be single. Because all the women were attracted to Zhun Xiaoyao. Haha, little brother, if I see you in person in the future, I will definitely cultivate with you. Yang Rumeng smiled and winked at Zhun Xiaoyao. Then, her slim waist swayed, and her slim figure disappeared on the spot like a puff of smoke. Damn it, this wanton woman. Zhun Mulan and Zhun Shuahuang gritted their teeth. Their faces were filled with anger, and their hearts were filled with hostility. Zhun Xiaoyao's eyes were deep. Could it be her? Zhun Xiaoyao had a vague guess in his mind. He shook his head and put the matter aside for the time being. Sigh, what a loss. Zhun Xiaoyao shook his head slightly and reached out to wipe away the lip print on the side of his face. Boys had to protect themselves when they were outside. If he wasn't careful, he would be molested by women. Perhaps, this was the pain of being too handsome. Zhun Xiaoyao sighed. If it were possible, he would rather not be as handsome as he was. He just wanted to be an ordinary man with ordinary looks. However, upon hearing Zhun Xiaoyao's words, the surrounding male geniuses wanted to curse. This was truly a case of people dying from drought and people dying from drowning. Even if they had 1% of Zhun Xiaoyao's handsomeness, it wouldn't be so bad that no beauties would take a fancy to them. Damn it, that goddess of the demon god palace is too shameless. Zhun Mulan's temper flared up. That's not her, Zhun Xiaoyao said. Then she is. Zhun Mulan was taken aback. They were outside, so they didn't observe as closely as Zhun Xiaoyao. It's fine. Don't worry about it for now. We still have things to do. Zhun Xiaoyao waved his hand. His attention once again fell on the blood of the remnant immortal. Zhun Xiaoyao did not hesitate to suppress the drop of blood of the remnant immortal again, lest something unexpected happen. It didn't take long for Zhun Xiaoyao to finally suppress the drop of immortal's blood. At this point, all the opportunities of the immortal ancient Dao Lake fell into the hands of Zhun Xiaoyao and the others. As for the other geniuses and creatures of the immortal ancient, they didn't gain any advantage. Not only that, but they also became the essence of jealousy. Their hearts were sour. I'm scared now. I don't dare to be in the same place as the son of God of the Zhun family anymore. Yes, with the son of God of the Zhun family, I feel like I'm not just a piece of trash, I'm ugly. All the surrounding geniuses were scared. As for the creatures of the immortal ancient, who were incomparably arrogant before, their eyes were now filled with fear. There had never been a geniuses from the outside world who dared to provoke the immortal ancient races like this. Zhun Xiaoyao was the first. After obtaining all the opportunities of the immortal ancient Dao Lake, Zhun Xiaoyao also began to think of the next step of his plan. At this time, Princess Longji, who had been standing to the side and hadn't left, spoke up. There's something. Princess Longji's face was hesitant. She wanted to say something, but stopped. Zhun Xiaoyao looked at Princess Longji. I really need that dragon corpse. Princess Longji took a deep breath. Her jade-like peaks rose and fell. If she didn't really want it, Princess Longji wouldn't have lowered her face to ask. However, she really needed this dragon corpse. Princess Longji had to kill Aolwan with her own hands. And Aolwan's cousin was one of the 4 young kings, the crown prince of the dragon human race, Ao Guang. Killing Aolwan would definitely offend Ao Guang. Princess Longji was not weak now, but against Ao Guang, it would be a little difficult. If she could refine this dragon corpse with the bloodline of the winged dragon, then Princess Longji's power would definitely skyrocket. Plus, she was an ancient freak. She already had a lot of experience. She might even be able to use this to break through to the heavenly god realm. Hearing Princess Longji's words, Jun Mulan and the others were dumbfounded. Princess Longji was Zulong's genius, and now she was asking Jun Xiaoyaro for the dragon corpse? That was too inconceivable. Jun Mulan and the others almost thought that something was wrong with Princess Longji's brain. Jun Xiaoyaro was not surprised, but on the surface, he said calmly, "Princess Longji, do I look like an idiot to you?" Princess Longji was silent. She shook her head. "Then are you an idiot yourself?" Jun Xiaoyaro continued. Princess Longji was silent again. She shook her head slightly. "How naive are you to think that I would give you the dragon corpse without any conditions?" Jun Xiaoyaro smiled faintly. This was a little laughable. Although Jun Xiaoyaro didn't really need the dragon corpse, he couldn't give it to Princess Longji so easily. He wasn't a kind person. Plus, Princess Longji was now on the opposing side. "Right, haven't you always wanted to end your feud with me, the son of God? Now, I'm giving you the chance. Make your move." Jun Xiaoyaro put his hands behind his back. Princess Longji's beautiful eyes flashed, then she shook her head again. "I'm no match for you now." Princess Longji finally understood the reality. She used to be very arrogant and had a very high status. She didn't take anyone seriously. But now, after following Jun Xiaoyaro for a while, she understood that in front of Jun Xiaoyaro, her status was nothing. Princess Longji wasn't stupid. She wouldn't ask for it. "Looks like you understand," Jun Xiaoyaro said. He looked at Princess Longji and changed the topic. "If you want the dragon corpse, it's not impossible. But I, the son of God, have a condition." Princess Longji's eyes lit up. "Tell me," she said hurriedly. She had already embarrassed herself in front of Jun Xiaoyaro. She wasn't afraid to call him master anymore. "It's very simple. I, the son of God, am currently lacking a mount." "You're barely qualified," Jun Xiaoyaro said. Princess Longji's mind buzzed. She was stunned. After a while, Princess Longji's bright red lips parted. "You want to ride me?" Chapter 432. Princess Longji did not expect Jun Xiaoyaro to really want to ride her. Based on her previous temper, she would have slapped him a long time ago. But now, even if she wanted to, she did not dare to. She was no match for him. Looking at the smile on Jun Xiaoyao's handsome face, Princess Longji felt that it was an eyesore. This Jun Xiaoyaro was so bad. In this world, you have to pay a price if you gain something. Compared to this precious dragon corpse, I think this condition is not too much, Jun Xiaoyaro said calmly. Princess Longji fell silent. Indeed. Compared to the precious dragon corpse, being a mount for a while was nothing. If it were anyone else, they would definitely fight to be Jun Xiaoyao's mount for this dragon corpse. But who was she? An ancient freak from Zulong, the princess of the dragon race with a noble bloodline. This was not a matter of ability, it was a matter of dignity. Although it was just being Jun Xiaoyao's mount in the immortal ancient world. But in the future, her reputation as the princess of the dragon race would be tarnished. Looking at Princess Longji's changing expression, Jun Xiaoyaro shook his head. "If that's the case, then forget it. I, the son of God, will not force anyone." Princess Longji was the one asking for help now, not him. Princess Longji gritted her teeth. The attraction of the dragon corpse was too fatal. It had the bloodline of the primordial winged dragon. It was not impossible to break through to the heavenly god state. If Princess Longji killed Ao Luan, Ao Guang and the dragon human race would definitely take revenge. If she wanted to gain the ability to fight against them, she had to get the dragon corpse. So, determination flashed across Princess Longji's beautiful face. "All right, I promise you." That one sentence caused the heavens and earth to fall silent. Jun Mulan and the rest were speechless. They did not expect Princess Longji to really agree. The surrounding geniuses looked like they had seen a ghost. "Then show me what you've got," Jun Xiaoyaro said. Princess Longji gritted her teeth and glared at Jun Xiaoyaro with her pretty eyes. Her delicate body trembled and radiated brilliance. A moment later, a clear dragon roar sounded. Princess Longji revealed her true form. She transformed into a slender fairy dragon. This fairy dragon had a slender figure. Because she possessed the bloodline of the ancient Azure Dragon Emperor, her dragon scales were a faint green color and were suffused with a rainbow glow. The entire fairy dragon was very noble, beautiful, and elegant. Her temperament did not lose out to her human form at all. It even added the majestic aura of the dragon clan. It's quite beautiful. Zhang Xiaoyao's feet flashed, and he directly stepped on the fairy dragon's head. Princess Longji was furious, her dragon eyes were filled with rage. This was the first time someone had ridden on top of her head. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned. Who would have thought that the ancient freak of Zulong, Princess Longji, would one day become the son of God of the Jun family? The son of God of the Jun family is a man of his words. When he fought with Princess Longji, he said that he would make her his mount. I can't believe it actually happened. Many geniuses looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. When Zhang Xiaoyaro said that before, everyone thought it was a joke. Who would have thought that it would become reality? At the same time, in the outside world, beside the immortal ancient mirror, everyone in Zulong was dumbfounded. They could not believe what they were seeing. Long Outyen suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Zhang Xiaoyaro and had his precious 7 dragon essences taken away. Princess Longji, on the other hand, not only turned against Long Outyen, but now became Zhang Xiaoyao's mount. No, tell me this isn't real. Impossible, the birth of 2 dragons, the ancestor dragon is the ruler. How could the geniuses of Zulong be reduced to this? All the Zulong elders were shouting, unable to accept this result. In front of Zhang Xiaoyaro, the geniuses of Zulong were defeated. How could the princess become someone's mount? The Blue Dragon General, Red Dragon General, White Dragon General, and Black Dragon General, who were guarding Princess Longji, were also in disbelief. Haha. On the other hand, the Jun family was the opposite. Zhang Zhantian and the other elders of the family were grinning from ear to ear. Zhang Xiaoyao's methods were beyond their expectations. All in all, the outside world could not calm down. The battle between Zulong and the Jun family's younger generation ended with Zulong's defeat. What will the final result of this battle in the immortal ancient mirror be? Many people were thinking. Now, it seemed that after Zhang Xiaoyaro entered the immortal ancient mirror, the Jun family's original disadvantage had been reversed. However, many people's eyes flickered with a dark light. Zulong and the other forces would not let this go so easily. Some forces who vaguely knew the inside story were also waiting for the Jun family's enemy forces to counterattack. On the immortal ancient Dao Lake, Zhang Xiaoyaro stood on top of the fairy dragon's head, making his temperament even more otherworldly. Is that enough? The fairy dragon spoke in human language. It was Princess Longji's voice. Have you forgotten how to address me? Zhang Xiaoyaro said. Mars. Master. The fairy dragon held back her anger. During our time in the immortal ancient mirror, I hope you can be more self-aware and play your role as a mount. Zhang Xiaoyaro left the fairy dragon's head. The fairy dragon's body swayed, and divine light shone. She turned back into Princess Longji's original body. Her beautiful face was flushed with embarrassment. She gritted her teeth, and her skin turned pink. Here. Zhang Xiaoyaro threw out the dragon corpse. Princess Longji restrained her anger, and her beautiful eyes shone. As long as she had this dragon corpse, she had hope of breaking through to the heavenly god realm. Xiaoyaro, if her strength increases greatly. Zhang Mulan and the others wanted to say something, but stopped. Don't worry, I know what to do, Zhang Xiaoyaro said. He wasn't stupid enough to let Princess Longji turn on him. Zhang Xiaoyaro was confident that even if Princess Longji broke through again, she wouldn't be his match. Not to mention, Zhang Xiaoyaro had obtained the blood of a remnant immortal. The blood of a remnant immortal was many times more precious than the dragon corpse. If Zhang Xiaoyaro refined the blood of a remnant immortal, he would definitely be able to suppress Princess Longji, who had refined the dragon corpse. Oh, and the 7 dragon essences. Princess Longji spoke again. Don't even think about it. Zhang Xiaoyaro cut off Princess Longji's thoughts. The 7 elemental dragon essences were useful to Zhang Xiaoyaro. Naturally, he couldn't give them to Princess Longji. Princess Longji glared at Jun Xiaoyaro angrily. However, she was just testing him. She didn't expect Jun Xiaoyaro to give her the dragon essences. The battle of the immortal ancient Dao lakes came to an end. The biggest winner was, without a doubt, Jun Xiaoyaro. Others didn't even get a single thing. Next, Jun Xiaoyaro thought about his next plan. He felt that his cultivation at the peak of the true immortal realm was still not enough. Not to mention the 4 young kings of the immortal ancient. Even if the ancient freak woke up later, he would at least be at the heavenly god realm. Right, I heard Jun Lingsang say that the Jun family has an ancient freak hibernating in the immortal ancient. I wonder where he is. Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. However, what Jun Xiaoyaro needed most now was seclusion. Not only did he need to break through his cultivation level, but his Deluo immortal body as well. He also needed to refine the blood of a remnant immortal. I'm really looking forward to it. After this seclusion, how much will my strength increase? Jun Xiaoyao's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 433. Jun Xiaoyaro had already thought of his next plan. First, he would go into seclusion to increase his strength as much as possible. Then, he would go and see where the ancient freak of the Jun family was hibernating. If possible, he would teach the Archean royalty and the immortal ancient races a lesson. Then, he would go to the depths of immortal ancient to search for opportunities. He would also pay attention to the news of the bronze immortal palace. If I'm going into seclusion, I'll choose the immortal ancient Dao Lake. Jun Xiaoyaro was too lazy to look for other places. The immortal ancient Dao Lake was rich in spiritual qi. It was the perfect place for seclusion. Jun Xiaoyaro looked around and said, "This place will be the place where I, the son of God, will go into seclusion. Everyone else, leave within 15 minutes. Otherwise, I'll kill you all." Jun Xiaoyao's simple words caused the geniuses and creatures of immortal ancient to shiver. They hurriedly retreated. In just a short while, only Jun Xiaoyaro and the people around him were left in the immortal ancient Dao Lake. Princess Longji did not say a word. She found a place and prepared to go into seclusion to refine the dragon corpse. Lei Mingyuan also found a place to refine the remains of the thunder beast. Even if he was just Jun Xiaoyao's servant, Lei Mingyuan felt that he should improve his strength. Only Jun Mulin and the other 2 were left. My seclusion this time might take some time. You can go into seclusion or look for opportunities. When the news of this place spreads, I don't think many people will dare to provoke our Jun family, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Okay. It's important for you to improve your strength. Don't worry about us, Jun Mulin and the other 2 said. Jun Xiaoyaro was now the backbone of the younger generation of the Jun family. Nothing could go wrong. Jun Xiaoyaro nodded slightly. Jun Mulin smiled and said, "I'm also very curious. When you come out of seclusion this time, how strong will you be? How should I put it? I should have no problem sweeping through immortal ancient." Jun Xiaoyaro smiled casually. Jun Mulin and the other 2's eyes lit up. They knew that while Jun Xiaoyaro looked arrogant, he was never one to brag. Since he said that he could sweep through immortal ancient, then he naturally could sweep through immortal ancient. After that, Jun Xiaoyaro also arrived at the core area where the 4 Dao lakes intersected. The spirit qi in this place was extremely dense, turning into wisps of mist. Let's begin, then. After Jun Xiaoyaro adjusted his state of mind, he prepared to begin cultivating. He first took out 7 elemental dragon essences. This was originally one of Long Outyen's trump cards. Now, Jun Xiaoyaro had snatched it away. "It's a pity that I wasn't able to refine the imperial dragon's blood." Jun Xiaoyaro sighed. However, thinking about it, these 7 dragon essences were refined by Long Outyen. Strictly speaking, they did not belong to him. However, the Emperor Dragon's blood was something that Long Outyen was born with. Naturally, it would not be so easy to extract it. Long Outyen, you'd better fatten yourself up quickly. Otherwise, I won't be able to do it. Jun Xiaoyaro chuckled. Jun Xiaoyaro also had a use for these 7 elemental dragon essences. As his strength increased, his blue sky ancestral dragon armor's defensive power was already somewhat lacking. He could use these 7 dragon essences to refine into the blue sky ancestral dragon armor to increase its defensive power. Moreover, Jun Xiaoyaro could also control the power of these 7 dragon essences at will. He took out the 7 dragon essences and began to focus on cultivating. The entire immortal ancient Dao lakes became quiet. However, what happened here would obviously spread quickly. After all, everything that Jun Xiaoyaro did was not a small matter. On the other hand, Jun Xiaoyaro had made more enemies as a result. Everyone could faintly sense that a storm seemed to be brewing in the immortal ancient world. 536 Literature. In a region not far from the immortal ancient Dao lakes. In the void, a graceful figure flashed. It was Yang Rumeng. The demonic glint in her beautiful eyes had already disappeared. Her entire face was pale, and she was a little exhausted. However, at the same time, there was a sense of shame on her face. I can't believe I kissed Jun Xiaoyaro. Yang Rumeng's emotions were complicated. Although it wasn't her original intention, it still gave her a strange feeling. What should I do next? Yang Rumeng was a little confused. Once, twice, she had been defeated by Jun Xiaoyaro. It was impossible to say that there was no impact. At this moment, a languid female voice sounded in Yang Rumeng's mind. Go to the ancient spiritual land. It seems that a descendant of the supreme demonic being is sleeping there. You can think of a way to wake her up. Yes, I will obey. However, should I let the descendant of the supreme demonic being deal with Jun Xiaoyaro? Yang Rumeng asked. No need. That little fresh meat is too delicious. He also has the 1 in a million sacred body of the ancients. He can be said to be an excellent cultivation vessel. If I can dual cultivate with him, I can probably become an immortal easily. The languid female voice had a hint of longing. Yang Rumeng's pretty face blushed slightly. It was the owner of the voice who had controlled her body and kissed Jun Xiaoyaro. After that, Yang Rumeng also set off for the ancient spiritual land. On the other side, Huang Tiange of the 1000 Phoenix Spirit Mountain was a little miserable. That Jun Xiaoyaro is too hateful. Huang Tiange's figure was in a mess. Fortunately, he had the divine Phoenix Eternal Fire. This fire was known to be immortal. It could allow Huang Tiange's physical body to recover at an extremely fast speed. Half of the wings on his back had been torn apart by Jun Xiaoyaro. Now, another one was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. I'll go find the Phoenix Lady to discuss countermeasures. Zulong and the other forces will not be indifferent. It's time to start the plan, Huang Tiange muttered to himself. His figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the distance. On the other side, the saint was also recovering from his injuries. His face was just as cold. Go to the ancient spiritual land. Not only are there some ancient freaks sleeping there, but there are also many opportunities buried there. If I can get the opportunities to become stronger, I might be able to contend with Jun Xiaoyaro. The saint gritted his teeth. He was unwilling to give up. He would definitely get his revenge. At the same time, in a secret place, several black-robed men gathered together. What should we do? Even the dark son of God has fallen. That Jun Xiaoyaro killed the fallen son of God first, and then the dark son of God. He has gone too far. These black-robed men were all from the fallen God palace. They had followed the dark son of God into the immortal ancient world. Who would have thought that they would hear the news that the dark son of God had fallen at the hands of Jun Xiaoyaro? Their strength was not as strong as the dark son of God. Going to find Jun Xiaoyaro was tantamount to suicide. We can only proceed according to the previous plan. Go to the ancient spiritual land and awaken the ancient freaks of the fallen God palace. That's right. Only the ancient freaks of the fallen God palace can contend with Jun Xiaoyaro. After making the decision, the fallen God palace's geniuses also set off for the ancient spiritual land. In an instant, all the forces that were against Jun Xiaoyaro started to take action. One could imagine that there would be a huge commotion in the immortal ancient world. Of course, the person who hated Jun Xiaoyaro the most was Long Outyen. Chapter 434. Damn it. Long Outyen looked up to the sky and cursed. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with hatred. Long Outyen, who had always been arrogant, had suffered a huge blow. Not only had he been defeated by Jun Xiaoyao, but his 7 dragon essences had also been taken away. More importantly, Jun Xiaoyao had taken the woman he wanted to make his official wife away from him. If thoughts could kill, Long Aotian would have killed Jun Xiaoyao 1,000,000 times. Mr. Long, don't be like this. It's okay to lose. Ao Luan comforted him. That's right, brother Aotian. It's not your fault. Long Bichi also comforted him. Ao Zhon shook his head slightly and said, I didn't expect there to be such a monster in the outside world. It seems that no one other than the crown prince can subdue him. Long Aotian gritted his teeth and was unwilling to give up. He did not want to seek revenge through others. He wanted to wash away the humiliation with his own hands. However, Long Aotian could not think of a better way at the moment. Ao Luan suddenly said, Mr. Long, why don't you come back to the ancestral land with me? Cousin Ao Guang is also cultivating in seclusion there. Maybe you can get some opportunities. Ao Luan was now thinking of Long Aotian wholeheartedly. Long Aotian's eyes lit up. The ancestral land of the dragon human race should be a place of opportunities. It was impossible for outsiders to enter it. However, he could enter it because of his relationship with Ao Luan. It was an opportunity that was exclusive to him. Isn't that a little inappropriate? Long Aotian purposely evaded the question. What's wrong with it? Mr. Long, you don't have to treat me like an outsider. Moreover, you have the blood of the dragon human race in you. Ao Luan blushed. You should come back with us. After all, we have a common enemy. Ao Zhon also said. That's good. Long Aotian nodded with a dark light in his eyes. He had made the right bet. As long as he protected Ao Luan, the opportunities of the dragon human race would be at his fingertips. Jun Xiaoyao, just you wait. When I become stronger, not only you but all the members of the Jun family in the immortal ancient world will be destroyed. Long Aotian said coldly in his heart. That plan had been hatched before they had entered the immortal ancient world. He would definitely be able to deal a fatal blow to the younger generation of the Jun family. After that, Long Aotian, Long Bichi, Bai Maya, and the others followed Ao Luan and Ao Zhon to the ancestral land of the dragon men. All of the immortal ancient Dao lakes were surging with undercurrents. There were geniuses fighting in every region, and there were also geniuses who died. The entire immortal ancient world was a great opportunity, but it was also very cruel. Even the sequence of the Jun family had fallen, let alone the geniuses of other forces. Of course, there were also many geniuses who had risen to the top. For example, Yi Yu had made a name for himself in the immortal ancient world. He was originally the successor of an ancient monarch clan in the mystic heaven immortal realm. He had many innate abilities and extraordinary bloodline. After finding all kinds of fortuitous encounters in the immortal ancient world, his strength skyrocketed, reaching the late-stage true immortal realm. He held the star extermination bow of annihilation in his hand and shot out 9 arrows in unison, sweeping through the surroundings. Other than Yi Yu, the reincarnation demon sect's ancient freak Wang Chuan was also famous. After all, he was an ancient freak. Coupled with his sacred reincarnation physique, he was ranked in the top 50 among the 3,000 physiques. Therefore, his strength was also very strong, reaching the small completion true immortal realm. In terms of strength, Wang Chuan could compete with the first and second sequence of the Jun family. But now, Jun Xiaoyao had planted a slave mark in his mind, so he was still Jun Xiaoyao's prisoner. In addition, there were all kinds of news. For example, Jun Wushuang, the second sequence of the Jun family, had killed 7 geniuses of the far ancient imperial family. Also, Jun Lingtsang, the first sequence of the Jun family with Polychoria, fought 3,000 rounds with the Qilin son of the ancient Qilin cave of the Archean royalty. In the end, the Qilin son was defeated in one move and retreated. Wang Teng, the young master of the Wang family, fought 100 geniuses alone in order to seize a fortuitous encounter. In the end, he defeated everyone and won the fortuitous encounter, shocking everyone. It could be said that the entire immortal ancient world had entered a white-hot stage. On the other side, the immortal ancient Dao lakes were still quiet. In the central area of the immortal ancient Dao lakes, Jun Xiaoyaro was sitting cross-legged by himself. At a certain moment, his body suddenly trembled, and 7-colored divine light surged in his body. Then, Jun Xiaoyaro suddenly opened his eyes, and the light on the surface of his body surged, and finally turned into a metal armor that flickered with 7-colored divine light. The entire armor was very slender, and it fit Jun Xiaoyao's slender body. The surface was silver, and at the same time, it was suffused with 7-colored divine light. It was a bit like colorful silver. This armor looked similar to the azure gold blue sky ancestral dragon armor from before. However, whether it was the defensive power or the aura, it was much stronger than the blue sky ancestral dragon armor. I finally completely refined the 7 dragon essences. With the armor on, Jun Xiaoyaro could feel that the defensive power of this armor was more than 10 times that of the blue sky ancestral dragon armor from before. However, that was not the only benefit. Jun Xiaoyaro raised his hand, and 7 dragon roars were heard. 7 dragon-shaped phantoms of different colors soared into the sky, and they were extremely powerful. This move was Long Outyen's trump card, the 7 dragons destroy the world. Not bad, these 7 dragon essences did not disappoint me. Let's call this armor the 7-colored sacred dragon armor, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Compared to the useless blue sky ancestral dragon armor, the 7-colored sacred dragon armor could obviously give Jun Xiaoyaro a great boost in defense. Jun Xiaoyao's body shook, and the 7-colored sacred dragon armor turned into motes of colorful light and retracted into Jun Xiaoyao's body. Refining the 7 dragon essences was just a side benefit. What Jun Xiaoyaro really wanted to cultivate was the Deluo immortal body and refine the drop of blood of the immortal remnant. Jun Xiaoyaro took out many sources of Dao and prepared to start refining the Deluo immortal bone. He was very curious to see how strong his physical body would be after he successfully cultivated the Deluo immortal body. Jun Xiaoyaro continued to cultivate. At about the same time, Long Outyen and the others also arrived at the ancestral land of the Dragon Men. Looking around, the ancestral land of the Dragon Men had an ancient and desolate aura. There was also dragon qi in the air. Led by Ao Luan and Ao Zhon, Long Outyen also entered the ancestral land of the Dragon Men. They arrived outside a valley. This is. Long Outyen hesitated. This is where cousin Ao Guang is cultivating in seclusion, Ao Luan said. That young king. Long Outyen's eyes flashed. Because the immortal ancient races were restricted by the rules of heaven and earth, the older generation elites could not leave the ancestral land. Therefore, it was useless to find the elders of the Dragon Men, so it was better to find the Dragon Men's crown prince, Ao Guang. At this moment, there was a sudden surge of aura in the valley, and light filled the sky. A golden sun rose into the sky. Upon closer inspection, there was actually a slender figure within the sun. The figure was a handsome blonde youth with golden dragon horns on his forehead. His skin was fair, and he looked like a god of light. Even Long Outyen was slightly startled by his aura. Heavenly God Realm. This person was undoubtedly the young king of the Dragon Men, Crown Prince Ao Guang. Chapter 435. In the outside world, it was almost impossible for the younger generation to reach the Heavenly God Realm at this age. However, the environment in the immortal ancient world was much better than the outside world. Crown Prince Ao Guang took a step forward and appeared in front of everyone. Cousin, Your Highness. Ao Luan and Ao Zhon cupped their hands. I know why you're here. It's because of that ant from the outside world, right? Ao Guang said calmly. That's right. Jun Xiaoyaro and that woman called Princess Longji must die. Ao Luan's tone was filled with hatred. Don't worry. As the leader of the immortal ancient race, how can we be provoked like this? Ao Guang said coldly. Feeling Ao Guang's pressure and killing intent, Baimaya couldn't help but feel worried. Although she had fanatical worship and confidence in Jun Xiaoyaro. However, Ao Guang's aura was too terrifying. It wasn't something that the outside world's geniuses could fight against. Oh right, cousin, this is Prince Long. He saved me before. Ao Luan introduced Long Outyen to Ao Guang. She also told Ao Guang about some of the things that happened before. After hearing that, Ao Guang nodded slightly. He looked at Long Aotian with kindness in his eyes. Thank you for saving my cousin. You don't have to thank me. Miss Ao Luan and I hit it off. I have no regrets helping her. Long Aotian said righteously. Seeing this, Ao Luan's heart throbbed even more. She begged, cousin, you must help young master Long. Long Aotian's eyes were filled with hope. He believed that his luck wouldn't be that bad. He would definitely have a chance to turn things around. Ao Guang thought for a moment and said, if we're talking about opportunities, the ancestral land of the dragon human race does have them. However, before that, can you promise to do something for the dragon human race? What is it? Long Aotian's eyes flashed. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. In the depths of the immortal ancient world, there's an ancient spiritual land. There are many opportunities there, and it's also the place where ancient freaks are buried. Meanwhile, in the depths of the ancient spiritual earth, there is an expanse of heaven-forbidden remains. That place has special rules, so our immortal ancient creatures cannot enter. If you can enter the heaven-forbidden legacy grounds and help us find the immortal ancient writ, I can let you go to the ancestral grounds to seek out opportunities. Ao Guang said. Primordial spiritual land, heaven-forbidden land? Long Aotian raised his eyebrows. As for what the immortal ancient token was, Long Aotian did not know either. Seeing this, Ao Guang did not mince his words. The immortal ancient token can allow us young immortal ancient creatures to leave the immortal ancient world. When he said this, even with Ao Guang's character, his tone couldn't help but fluctuate a little. These young kings of the immortal ancient, no matter how monstrous their talents and strength were, could only be trapped in the immortal ancient world. They also yearned for freedom. They wanted to go out, challenge the Emperor's road, and fight for the heavenly fate. In the immortal ancient world, their cultivation levels were generally higher than the geniuses of the outside world. But what they lost was their freedom. All right, I understand. Long Aotian agreed. Regardless of whether he could get it in the end, there was nothing wrong with agreeing now. I hope you won't disappoint me. Ao Guang looked deeply at Long Aotian. Long Aotian's heart trembled. If he slacked off, Ao Guang would not let him go. When I get the opportunity, no one will be able to stand on top of me, whether it's Jun Xiaoyaro or Ao Guang. Long Aotian thought to himself. He was the main character of the heavenly fate, born rebellious. Only he could step on the heads of others, and not let others step on his head. After Long Aotian agreed, Ao Guang led the group to the depths of the Dragonman ancestral grounds. Looking from afar, an island was suspended in the void. And on the island, there was a cave. That is the opportunity of the Dragonman ancestral grounds, the ancient dragon cave. I have entered it before, but it was difficult for me to reach the deepest part. But I have to remind you that there is a risk of death if you enter. As for the deepest part, there is almost 100% chance of death. Ao Guang warned. Hearing this, Ao Luan panicked a little. Prince Long, don't force yourself. It's okay. Long Aotian's eyes shone brightly. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If he was afraid, then he would not be Long Aotian. Jun Xiaoyao, just you wait. I, Long Aotian, will not be defeated just like this, Long Aotian said coldly in his heart. His body rose into the sky, and without hesitation, he entered the ancient dragon cave. Cousin, will he be okay? Ao Luan asked worriedly. That will depend on his luck. I hope he knows what's good for him and goes to the deepest part. Ao Guang shook his head. In the deepest part, even with his heavenly god cultivation, there was no chance of survival. Long Aotian was only a late true god. If he went to the deepest part, he would definitely die. Compared to Ao Luan's worries, Bai Maier wished that Long Aotian would die in the ancient dragon cave. In that case, Jun Xiaoyaro would have less trouble. Long Aotian began to look for his own opportunity. He wanted to make a comeback and take revenge on Jun Xiaoyaro. In another region of the immortal ancient world, there was a spiritual mountain filled with Daoist rhythms and spiritual qi. On top of the spiritual mountain sat a peerless woman who looked like she was going to ride the wind. Her entire body was flawless, and she looked like a fairy. Her jade-like body was tall and slender. Her fine black hair was like a waterfall, draping over her hips. Her immortal face was sparkling and shrouded in radiance. Her brows were like the distant mountains, and her eyes were clear. She was extremely beautiful with a kind of otherworldly beauty. Her entire body emitted a carnate daoist rhythm, like a snow lotus that stood alone in the world, untainted by dust. Who else could this woman be other than Jiang Shengyi? At a certain moment, Jiang Shengyi opened her clear eyes and exclaimed, "The daoist rhythms of this place are indeed beneficial." At this moment, Jiang Shengyi seemed to have sensed something. Her beautiful eyes turned cold as she looked into the distance. "Come out. He, I don't want to disturb fairies' cultivation." In the distant sky, a figure arrived. It was a young man who was tall, handsome, and had the bearing of a dragon and the appearance of a phoenix. His skin was like jade and contained divine light. His entire body seemed to be protected by the heavenly Tao. 4 auspicious spirits surrounded him. A true dragon soared into the sky, a phoenix cried, a chileen stepped on the sea, and a black tortoise carried the mountain. The surrounding chi of heaven and earth was disturbed by him. His entire body was shrouded in endless light, as if a celestial emperor had descended. It was the young emperor of the Wang family, Wang Ting. "Wang Ting, what are you doing here?" Seeing the visitor, Jiang Shengyi's expression was as cold as ice. The mana in her body flowed faintly. "Jiang Shengyi, there's no need to treat me like an outsider. I have no hostility towards you." Wang Ting stood in the void with his hands behind his back. There was a gentle smile at the corner of his mouth. One had to admit that Wang Ting was indeed magnanimous. His temperament was extraordinary and could subdue everyone. However, Jiang Shengyi was not late to this. There was no fluctuation in her beautiful eyes. "I have nothing to do with you, and I have nothing to say to you." Jiang Shengyi's tone was cold. If the Wang family hadn't come to propose marriage, Zhun Xiaoyao wouldn't have had to take the risk of entering the eternal burial ground. Jiang Shengyi didn't have a good impression of Wang Teng and the Wang family. Instead, she was extremely disgusted and hostile. "Sigh, how sad. But I'm sure you need this, right?" As Wang Teng spoke, he took out a jade scroll that emitted extraordinary daoist rhythms. "That is." Jiang Shengyi's eyes dimmed. Chapter 436. The jade scroll that Wang Ting took out was filled with ancient Taoist rhymes, giving people a feeling that it was about to be sublimated. Seeing Jiang Shengyi's eyes, Wang Ting smiled and said, "I got this by chance in a place of opportunity. It recorded the great path of a great celestial lord. You have an innate Taoist embryo and need this kind of enlightenment the most, so I want to give it to you." Wang Ting had a gentle smile at the corner of his lips. To be honest, any woman would be tempted by Wang Teng's charm. After all, with Wang Teng's status, there was no need for him to please any woman. It was rare for him to be so attentive. The enlightenment of a great celestial lord. Jiang Shengyi's eyes flashed slightly. That was not the enlightenment of an ordinary supreme, but that of a great celestial lord. Among the 7 realms of supreme, great celestial lords were ranked 4th. One could imagine how precious the enlightenment of the great path left by such a powerhouse was. Wang Ting had put in a lot of effort in order to pursue Jiang Shengyi. "Take it. It's what you need." Wang Ting smiled. Jiang Shengyi said coldly, "You're just interested in my innate Taoist embryo." Wang Ting raised his eyebrows slightly and said non-committally, "I don't deny it, but how do you know that Zhun Xiaoyao is not interested in your innate Taoist embryo?" "You. What nonsense are you talking about?" Jiang Shengyi's eyes flashed with a hint of panic. Wang Teng, who saw this, had a cold look in his eyes. Jiang Shengyi was indeed related to Zhun Xiaoyao. He continued, "Zhun Xiaoyao has the sacred body of the ancients, and you have the innate Taoist embryo. How do you know that he's not being nice to you because of your innate Taoist embryo? Besides, I heard that the Jiang family wants to unite Jiang Luoli and Zhun Xiaoyao by marriage. What about you? Also, your relationship with Zhun Xiaoyao is a bit special. Zhun Xiaoyao may not give you any status in his life. Are you willing to be looked down upon like this?" Wang Teng's words were like sharp swords that went straight to Jiang Shengyi's heart. She had to admit that Wang Ting was very smart. He had done his homework before coming. He knew that to deal with a woman like Jiang Xingyi, it was useless to use force. To attack her heart. At this moment, Wang Teng seemed to have become old Wang next door. He was trying his best to poach him. Jiang Xingyi's. Although Wang Teng's words had a hidden agenda, they had indeed hit the nail on the head. She wondered what kind of person she was in Zhun Xiaoyao's eyes. Moreover, Jiang Xingyi did not know how to face Jiang Luoli in the future. She was very confused. Wang Ting waved his hand and threw the great heavenly venerate jade slip to Jiang Xingyi. To say, women, A's woman thought. But the next moment, the smile on Wang Teng's face froze. Jiang Xingyi didn't even look at the jade slip. With a shake of her jade-like hand, the jade slip was reduced to dust. Jiang Xingyi, you. Coldness flashed past Wang Teng's eyes. Your words and your person only make me feel extremely nauseous and disgusted. Jiang Xingyi's beautiful face was filled with anger. She was already mature. How could she be defeated by Wang Teng's words? Wang Ting was looking down on her by treating her as an ignorant young lady. Wang Ting clenched his fists. An impulse surged in his heart. If he forcibly suppressed Jiang Xingyi now, as Wang Teng was thinking this, his gaze suddenly fell on the void behind Jiang Xingyi. The next moment, the coldness on Wang Teng's face dissipated. He smiled and said, "Since your friend is here, I will take my leave." After he finished speaking, Wang Ting took a step and left. After Wang Teng left, in the void behind Jiang Xingyi appeared. A beautiful woman in a flowery silk dress appeared. That beauty was beautiful. Her skin was fair and translucent. Especially her beautiful eyes, which rippled like autumn water. She looked extremely lively. This fairy-like beauty was extremely beautiful. But she was not a flower vase. The faint fluctuations she emitted indicated that she had reached the celestial god realm. That man is really annoying, the woman said. Her eyes were filled with disgust. Qiushui, thank you, Jiang Xingyi said with a smile. This woman was one of the immortal ancient four great clans, the young king of the beauty clan, Li Qiushui. Li Qiushui replied with a smile, "This is nothing. Previously, several of my clansmen were in danger. It was only because you passed by that we were able to survive. Moreover, we still need you to go to the Forbidden Heaven ruins and help us find the immortal ancient tokens." "Don't worry, I will definitely do this," Jiang Xingyi nodded and said with certainty. Because she had coincidentally saved several clansmen of the Beauty Clan, she had formed good karma with the Beauty Clan. The Beauty Clan gave Jiang Xingyi the ancestral stele in the ancestral land for her to study and comprehend, which allowed her cultivation to increase greatly. Jiang Xingyi agreed to help them find the immortal ancient tokens in the Forbidden Heaven ruins. "Right, there is a piece of news that I think you will be interested in," Li Qiushui suddenly said. "What news?" Jiang Xingyi asked. Then, Li Qiushui told her all the news about Zhun Xiaoyao. The immortal ancient clans were local tyrants, so their channels of information were much faster than the geniuses of the outside world. After hearing that Zhun Xiaoyao had swept through the immortal ancient Dao lakes, Jiang Xingyi revealed a knowing smile. She was even happier than if she had obtained the opportunity herself. Xiaoyao has never disappointed anyone. Jiang Xingyi's beautiful eyes contained affection that even she herself did not notice. Sigh, a woman in love. Li Qiushui sighed. On the other side, Wang Teng, who had left Jiang Xingyi, finally couldn't hold back his anger and exploded. His body shook, and thousands of magical power rumbled between heaven and earth. The surrounding mountains were sunk by this magical power, and smoke and dust rose into the sky. After a long while, Wang Ting calmed down and suddenly said, "Is he here?" A wave of ripples suddenly appeared in the void. A cloaked man in a black robe that hid his identity appeared in front of Wang Ting. The void around this cloaked man was distorted and vibrating, and ripples appeared. Obviously, he had extraordinary attainments in the way of space. "Greetings, young emperor," the cloaked man said in a low voice. "That plan is about to be implemented. You have a special physique, so it will be convenient for you to contact other forces," Wang Ting said. "Is it finally about to start?" "The Kingslayer plan," the cloaked man murmured. "Go." I will make everyone in the Jun family pay with their blood. Wang Teng's eyes were extremely cold. He would get back at the Jun family for the humiliation he suffered at Jiang Xingyi's hands. As Wang Teng activated the Kingslayer plan, the undercurrents in the entire immortal ancient world became even more turbulent. In a certain part of the immortal ancient world, a scholarly young man was digesting his own opportunities. He looked like a human, but there was a pair of compound eyes on his face. The void in front of him suddenly twisted, and a cloaked man appeared. The scholarly man seemed to have expected this, and he was not surprised. "You're finally here," the scholarly man said with a faint smile. "Jiyu Chanzi, the plan has begun. You need to find out where the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family are sleeping," the cloaked man said. "No problem. We can finally begin." The man named Jiyu Chanzi smiled faintly. He was from the heavenly cicada royal family of the far ancient royal family. In this family, there was a heavenly cicada who had become a great emperor, and he was called Heavenly Cicada. The heavenly cicada royal family was born with the ability to tell fortunes, and they could calculate many causes and effects. It was also because of this that the heavenly cicada royal family was extremely rare. There were only 2 or 3 of them in each generation, and most of them lived in seclusion. This time, before the opening of the immortal ancient world, many opposing forces of the Jun family had joined forces and secretly planned the Kingslayer plan. Because of this, they deliberately found a descendant of the heavenly cicada royal family, who was Jiyu Chanzi. Chapter 437. Jiyu Chanzi was an important part of the plan. He was the only one who could figure out where the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family were sleeping in the ancient spiritual land. After informing Jiyu Chanzi, the cloaked man disappeared into the void. Jiyu Chanzi's eyes were deep as he looked into the distance. This plan has Zulong, Wanhuang Spirit Mountain, Qilin Ancient Cave, Wang family of the Northern Land, Fallen God Palace, and other forces involved. It should be foolproof. But why do I feel something ominous, as if there is an anomaly that will lead to a catastrophe and destruction? Jiyu Chanzi frowned slightly. The Heavenly Cicada clan could vaguely calculate a trace of karma and fate, but only vaguely. It involved a deeper level of karma and fate. Unless the ancestor of the Heavenly Cicada clan, Tian Chanzi, was reincarnated. Otherwise, the rest of the Heavenly Cicada clan did not have such a profound ability. Jiyu Chanzi could only be considered a young descendant of the Heavenly Cicada clan. He was not mature enough and could only calculate some superficial karma. After that, in another area, the cloaked man found Huang Tiange. Beside him, there was another beautiful woman. The woman was wearing a red phoenix robe. It was as bright as fire, outlining her hazy and graceful figure. Her skin was like jade, and her hair was tied into a luxurious phoenix bun. Her face was charming and alluring, and there was a phoenix mark on her snow-white forehead. This woman was the phoenix maiden of Wanhuang Spirit Mountain, Feng Luofei. Huang Zi, Huang Tiange. Phoenix Maiden, Feng Luofei. These 2 were the core geniuses of Wanhuang Spirit Mountain. Huang Zi, Phoenix Maiden, the plan is about to start, the cloaked man said. We know. Feng Luofei nodded slightly. The cloaked man turned around and left. After he left, Feng Luofei turned to look at Huang Tiange and said, "Is Jun Xiaoyao really that strong?" Huang Tiange said in a low voice, "Although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that Jun Xiaoyao is worthy of the title of number 1 of the younger generation. I, the sacred son of the sacred sect, and the goddess of the demon god palace can't even make him retreat, let alone injure him." Feng Luofei frowned when she heard Feng Tianji's words. Logically speaking, even if there was a gap between heaven's favorites of the same generation, the gap shouldn't be that big. It could only be said that Jun Xiaoyao was a unique anomaly. His existence was like an ancient mountain, pressing down on the heads of all the geniuses. In the future, even the ancient freaks might be suppressed by Jun Xiaoyao. Unfortunately, my 10,000 Phoenix Spiritual Mountains ancient freak is not in the immortal ancient world. Feng Luofei shook her small head. Not all ancient freaks were slumbering in the immortal ancient world. Princess Longji, for example, was sleeping somewhere in the immortal region. That doesn't matter. If we join forces, We can even kill the ancient freaks of the Jun Xiaoyaro, Huang Tiange said. If Jun Xiaoyaro and the others were not eliminated, they would not be at ease. Then let's go to the ancient spiritual land, Feng Luofei said. The two of them flapped their wings and flew in the direction of the ancient spiritual land. In another area of the immortal ancient world. In the middle of a mountain range filled with purple. A man with a head of purple hair and an auspicious Chilean phantom around him was sitting cross-legged on the mountain peak. He had a pair of purple Chilean horns on his head and wore a purple-gold Chilean armor. His aura was extremely powerful. His pair of eyes were like purple stars revolving around him, captivating one's soul. This man was the top heaven's favorite of the ancient Chilean cave, the Chilean sun. Previously, news spread in the immortal ancient world that the Chilean sun fought with the Jun family's sequence number 1, Jun Lingsong, and escaped after losing in one move. But now, the Chilean sun didn't show any signs of injury. His chi and blood were strong. At this time, the void in front of him rippled and a figure appeared. It was the cloaked man. The Chilean sun looked over with his purple eyes and a dark light flashed in his eyes. Chilean sun, the plan has begun. Let's go to the ancient spiritual land, the cloaked man said. It's finally begun. The Chilean sun stood up. His chi and blood were vigorous, and the purple chi around him was vast and mighty. Vaguely, countless auspicious Chilean shadows flashed around him. Jun Lingsong, you think I lost to you in one move, but in fact, it's because I didn't use my trump card. Next, it will be the end of the Jun family. The Chilean sun sneered, his purple hair fluttering. On the other side, the cloaked man, who had left the Chilean sun, was planning his next plan. Who should I inform next? Zulong's Long Aotian lost to Jun Xiaoyaro at the immortal ancient Dao Lake. Now, his whereabouts are unknown. Princess Longji submitted to Jun Xiaoyaro and even became his mount. The cloaked man's tone was calm. He had just received this news not long ago. No matter what, Jun Xiaoyaro must die in the immortal ancient world. The cloaked man's voice was extremely cold, as if he had an irreconcilable hatred for Jun Xiaoyaro. By the way, we can also join forces with other forces, such as the Demon God Palace and the Sacred Sect, as well as the immortal ancient races that Jun Xiaoyaro offended. The cloaked man sneered. After that, he tried to find a way to find the Sacred Sect's son and Yang Rumeng. The Sacred Sect's son was very decisive and agreed immediately. As for Yang Rumeng, she didn't agree immediately. Instead, she rejected it temporarily. To be honest, she really didn't want to meet the devil Jun Xiaoyaro again. Next, the cloaked man rushed to the ancestral lands of the immortal ancient races. On the other side, outside the ancient dragon cave in the ancestral land of the dragon men. Ao Guang, Ao Luan, Long Bichi, Bai Mai and the others were waiting there. It's been so many days, but Prince Long hasn't come out. Could something have happened? Ao Luan asked worriedly. If he had listened to the warning, he shouldn't have. Just as Ao Guang finished his sentence, the entire floating island where the ancient dragon cave was located started to rumble and shake. Lights of various colors lit up and dragon chi filled the air. What's going on? Ao Luan was shocked. He stepped into the deepest part of the ancient dragon cave. Ao Guang frowned. What? Ao Luanyu's face turned pale. Didn't this mean that Long Aotian was likely to die? Bai Mai was a little happy. If Long Aotian really died in the ancient dragon cave, it couldn't be better. At the same time, in the deepest part of the ancient dragon cave, Long Aotian's body was covered in blood as he stepped on a formation. I did it. I finally did it. Long Aotian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. The ancient dragon cave was indeed full of danger. One could lose his life if he wasn't careful. But who was he? He was Long Aotian. He was the son of fate who was protected by the heavens and earth. He had the halo of a protagonist. How could a mere ancient dragon cave be enough to take his life? After breaking through the most difficult stage, Long Aotian looked around and held his breath. In front of him was a giant dragon clan skeleton that was filled with an ancient and desolate aura. Every bone was as clear as jade and seemed to be branded with the runes of the heavens and earth. The unique spatial fluctuations couldn't be concealed and spread out. This, could it be, the ancient Void Dragon clan? Long Outyen's face was filled with unprecedented joy. Chapter 438. The Dragon Tribe was a very broad tribe that included many categories. Even Zulong could not gather all of the Dragon Tribe's living beings. Within the Dragon Tribe, there were many different types of Dragon Tribe based on the difference in their bloodlines. The ancient Void Dragon clan was a very ancient and powerful clan among the Dragon clan. The bloodline of this tribe was extremely rare and difficult to find. Even in the lair of Zulong, there was no ancient Void Dragon. Now, in front of Long Outyen was the remains of an ancient Void Dragon. What did this mean? This meant that Long Outyen might have obtained the legendary inheritance of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. Even if it was an incomplete inheritance, its value was immeasurable. It could be said that this ancient Void Dragon's remains were not any weaker than the one at the immortal ancient Dao Lake that had the bloodline of the winged dragon. It might even be more precious. Haha, the heavens have not forsaken me. Long Outyen looked up and laughed. What was a destined protagonist? This was a destined protagonist. Even if he, Long Outyen, encountered some setbacks, he would eventually rise again. As for Jun Xiaoyao, he was just a stepping stone on his path to greatness. Long Outyen suppressed his excitement and approached the ancient Void Dragon's remains. At that moment, he suddenly realized that there seemed to be something in the mouth of the ancient Void Dragon's remains. Long Outyen was curious and went forward to search. He suddenly realized that there was a scroll with an ancient aura in the ancient Void Dragon's mouth. These scrolls were dark gold in color, as if they were made from gold leaf. They were filled with a special aura that faintly caused the surrounding space to vibrate. Long Outyen was surprised and opened the scroll. Instantly, countless ancient words came into view. Every ancient character seemed to be floating in the void, releasing endless brilliance. Long Outyen's entire body froze as he scanned the scroll. Even his breathing seemed to have stopped. No way, I found such a treasure. Long Outyen's breathing quickened as his eyes widened. He was so excited that his hands trembled slightly. As the first generation of the forbidden tribe in Zulong, he had seen all kinds of treasures. For a treasure to be able to make him lose his composure, it was obvious how precious it was. Because this dark golden scroll was none other than the legendary 9 Great Heavenly Tomes. It's actually one of the 9 Great Heavenly Books, the Space Book. It contains the ultimate space Tao. Long Outyen was so excited that his whole body trembled. His eyes were fixed on the Space Book. The 9 Great Heavenly Tomes could be said to be a legend. Since ancient times, countless people had wanted to obtain the 9 Great Heavenly Tomes. However, collecting all 9 heavenly books was extremely difficult. Even obtaining one of the heavenly books was extremely difficult. It was impossible to obtain the 9 Great Heavenly Tomes unless one was extremely lucky. Long Outyen also thought about it. The ancient Void Dragon tribe was also proficient in the Tao of space. They could control the power of space and travel through the void at will to expand their small worlds. Therefore, it was not impossible for the ancient Void Dragon clan to obtain the space scroll. Haha, what does this mean? It means that I, Long Outyen, am the chosen one. Long Outyen couldn't help but laugh wildly. Long Outyen had been suppressed for too long. Princess Longji had been robbed. He had been defeated by Jun Xiaoyao. And 7 dragon essences had been snatched away. To someone as arrogant as Long Outyen, it was simply unbearable. But now, Long Outyen could finally hold his head high again. He was still the main character that was fated to be. After Long Outyen carefully scanned the space scroll, his brows furrowed slightly. Why is there only half a space scroll? Long Outyen muttered to himself. He could see that this space scroll was obviously incomplete. It was only half. Forget it. With my luck and opportunity, do I have to be afraid that I won't be able to obtain the other half of the space scroll in the future? Long Outyen didn't care. Even if there was only half of the space scroll, he was confident that he could collect it all in the future. Now, this half of the space scroll and the ancient Void Dragon's remains were already a great opportunity. By the time I finish refining the remains of the ancient Void Dragon, I'll definitely be able to make a breakthrough to the celestial god realm. By then, I'll have the heritage of the ancient void dragon and half of the space scroll. Jun Xiaoyaro will be nothing to me then. Long Aotian smirked with contempt. In front of him, who was bursting with luck, Jun Xiaoyaro was just a piece of trash. Next, Long Aotian went into seclusion in the depths of the ancient dragon cave to refine the opportunity. Around the same time, at the immortal ancient Dao Lake. At the center of the immortal ancient Dao Lake, Jun Xiaoyaro was cultivating in seclusion. Jun Xiaoyao's entire body was surrounded by a golden cocoon of light. Outside the golden cocoon of light, there was a hazy immortal light and an overflowing immortal aura. Clearly, Jun Xiaoyao's origin immortal bone had reached the final stage of its transformation. During this period of time, he had refined over 1,000 Dao origins he had obtained from the immortal ancient Dao lakes and over 100 Dao origins from the ancient Dao tree. Each Dao origin was comparable to a peerless immortal origin. It contained a tremendous amount of energy. Over 1,000 Dao origins had been used to refine the origin immortal bones. Even if the origin immortal bones consumed a lot of resources, it was still enough. Finally, at a certain moment, the golden cocoon of light emitted cracking sounds as cracks began to appear all over it. Strands of golden radiance leaked out. Immortal radiance overflowed. Following a series of cracks, the golden cocoon of light suddenly broke into pieces. It was like a butterfly breaking out of its cocoon. A slender and perfect figure was revealed from the cocoon. Jun Xiaoyao's figure was submerged in the immortal light. He was unleashing a formidable aura. In his body, 206 origin immortal bones had been completely refined. They were connected to each other, forming a complete cycle. A single origin immortal bone was enough to strengthen Jun Xiaoyaro greatly. Now that the 206 origin immortal bones were completely connected to form a true immortal body of the origin immortal realm, the ripple was indescribable. Jun Xiaoyao's figure was almost flawless. Every inch of his skin was flowing with immortal light. His figure moved slightly. The space around him rippled as if it could not withstand the strength of Jun Xiaoyao's flesh. Jun Xiaoyaro raised his hand and clenched it. The space seemed to explode with a sonic boom. Immortal light and golden light surged. I am immortal when the heavens and earth decay. I am immortal when all things are destroyed. Jun Xiaoyaro murmured to himself. His body was flowing with immortal light, like the legendary sacred spirit of the immortal metal Dao, with an indestructible will. Now, even an ancient sacred weapon would find it difficult to leave a mark on Jun Xiaoyao's body. His physical strength had been multiplied by the immortal body of the origin immortal realm, breaking the limits of the physical body. The current Jun Xiaoyaro did not need to use any techniques. He only needed to throw a punch. Within the true immortal realm, there were very few prodigies who could take a punch from him without dying. Jun Xiaoyao's body trembled. The 206 origin immortal bones in his body lit up at the same time, communicating with each other. In an instant, a wisp of golden immortal qi mixed with blood qi appeared and wrapped around his body. This is... Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed. Chapter 439. That strand of divine qi, which was a mixture of gold and blood, coiled around Jun Xiaoyaro like a dragon, causing his aura to be imbued with supreme divine will. This was a strand of immortal qi. It was not an adjective, but a true strand of immortal qi. Each of the 9 great heavenly books represents an extreme path. The Deluo immortal body has reached a certain extreme physical body, so it evolved a strand of immortal qi, Jun Xiaoyaro said thoughtfully. After the true immortal realm, from the heavenly god realm to the Dao god realm, to the boundary sage realm, to the sage realm, they all needed to comprehend Dao laws. However, this strand of immortal qi was more powerful than any Dao laws. Throughout the countless eras since the beginning of time, no one had been able to cultivate a strand of immortal qi at the true god realm like Jun Xiaoyaro. This was an impossible miracle. This strand of immortal qi is too much for me. It's indescribable. Jun Xiaoyaro also exclaimed. Just the complete Deluo immortal body alone was powerful enough that ancient sacred weapons could hardly hurt him. With this strand of immortal qi, Jun Xiaoyaro even felt that it would not be easy for a sage to destroy his physical body. What was more terrifying was that the Deluo immortal body and immortal qi could be improved as Jun Xiaoyao's cultivation level increased. As expected of one of the 9 great heavenly tomes, the Physique tomes. The first volume alone allowed me to cultivate a whiff of divine qi. If I were to get my hands on the other tomes, wouldn't I be able to cultivate 9 whiffs of divine qi? Throughout the countless eras, there were almost no sky prides who could cultivate 9 strands of immortal qi at a young age. Not to mention 9 strands, in the past, young sky prides who could cultivate 1 or 2 strands of immortal qi were enough to suppress everyone. Jun Xiaoyao had not even started on his emperor road, but he had already cultivated a strand of immortal qi. In this aspect, Jun Xiaoyao had completely surpassed his peers. Even if I don't augment my physical body with immortal qi, a celestial god wouldn't be a threat to me just by relying on my immortal body. If I add a strand of immortal qi to my body, I might be able to kill even a heavenly god. Jun Xiaoyao narrowed his eyes slightly. True god realm and celestial deity realm, across a major realm, there was originally a difference between clouds and mud. However, for Jun Xiaoyao, this gap could be made up for, and he could even counterattack. Most importantly, Jun Xiaoyao's transformation was not complete yet. Next, it's this drop of blood. Jun Xiaoyao raised his hand. Within the ball of dharmic power, the drop of blood of the immortal remnant emitted an unparalleled fluctuation. The drop of blood seemed to reflect a whole world. Not only was the drop of blood able to strengthen Jun Xiaoyao's flesh, it was extremely valuable to him too. The great Tao that belongs to me, divine origin. I haven't had many breakthroughs. Perhaps this is an opportunity. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes were deep. It was fine if he didn't break through, but once he did, he would reach the extreme. If I hadn't cultivated the immortal Deluo immortal body, I wouldn't dare to refine this drop of blood. But now, I don't have to worry about anything, Jun Xiaoyao said to himself. The energy of the immortal remnant's blood was too strong. Even Jun Xiaoyao's sacred body of the ancients might not be able to withstand it. However, after cultivating the immortal Deluo immortal body, Jun Xiaoyao's flesh had reached the extreme. Coupled with the immortal qi of his flesh, he didn't have to worry about the immortal remnant's blood bursting his flesh. Jun Xiaoyao went into seclusion again, concentrating on refining this drop of immortal remnant's blood. The seclusion this time would obviously take longer than refining the 7 dragon essences and cultivating the immortal Deluo immortal body. The immortal remnant's blood was not that easy to refine. Even Jun Xiaoyao would have to spend a certain amount of time. As time passed, the geniuses who entered the immortal ancient world were also gradually transforming and growing. Among them, most of the geniuses might die. But those who survived, without exception, had all made great progress. These geniuses had the potential to shine on their emperor's path in the future. As the opportunities in the immortal ancient world were discovered one by one, the remaining opportunities became fewer and fewer. However, there was one place that all the geniuses paid attention to. That was the ancient spiritual land. If the spiritual qi in the immortal ancient world was 100 times richer than that of the immortal region outside, then, the spiritual qi in the ancient spiritual land was 100 times richer than that in the immortal ancient world. The ancient spiritual land was located in the depths of the immortal ancient world. It was an absolutely fertile land and blessed land. The spiritual qi there was unbelievably rich. All kinds of opportunities were also extremely rich. It was worthy of being called the spiritual land. And because of the rich environment, many ancient freaks chose to hibernate in the ancient spiritual land. The entire ancient spiritual land was extremely vast, almost comparable to a small immortal ancient world. Therefore, those ancient freaks who were hibernating were not worried about being disturbed. In a certain area of the ancient spiritual land, a woman with a perfect face and a graceful body landed here. It was Yang Rumeng. It should be in this area, Yang Rumeng murmured. As a demon emperor body, she was extremely sensitive to all kinds of demonic qi. This time, she came to the ancient spiritual land to awaken the descendant of the supreme being of the demonic Tao. The supreme being of the demonic Tao was once a top expert of the demon god palace in ancient times. The strength of his descendant was obviously extraordinary. After finding an area, Yang Rumeng took out a demon talisman. Demonic Tao runes surged out of the demon talisman. In an instant, the ground cracked, and waves of terrifying demonic qi surged out. The aura that was faintly emitted caused Yang Rumeng's face to reveal surprise. The demonic qi of the heavenly god realm. Although Yang Rumeng was surprised, she was not surprised. The ancient spiritual land's environment was rich. The ancient freaks who were hibernating here were obviously not as strong as the current generation of geniuses. The pitch-black auras rose into the sky and took the shape of pitch-black crows. Then, the crows gathered in mid-air and turned into a devilish man in a black feather robe. As he appeared, the surrounding area was shrouded in a layer of ominous dark clouds. Many illusions of crows appeared in the sky, constantly making noisy sounds that shook one's soul. His awakened. The crow of calamity, Wu Shuo, Yang Rumeng said in a daze. The true form of the supreme being of the demonic Tao was a crow of calamity that brought endless disasters. His descendant, Wu Shuo, was also an ancient freak who controlled ominous and curses. His finally awakened. In this era, there is an aura of enlightenment, Wu Shuo muttered to himself. The ancient freaks sealed themselves because in their era, there was no hope, and it was difficult to attain enlightenment. In this era, there was great competition, and geniuses were rising. Even the ancient freaks felt that there was hope of attaining enlightenment. Wu Shuo turned to look at Yang Rumeng, a look of amazement flashing through his dark red eyes. Yang Rumeng was indeed a one-in-a-million beauty, causing people to raise their eyebrows. I am the goddess of the demon god palace. Feeling Wu Shuo's gaze, Yang Rumeng frowned slightly. She did not like others looking at her with such a gaze. It seemed that the only person who did not need to look at her with such a gaze was Jun Xiaoyao. However, although she was unhappy, the crow of calamity was still an ancient freak of the demon god palace. Therefore, Yang Rumeng told Wu Shuo some of the things that happened in the immortal ancient world. What? You were humiliated by the Jun family's genius? Wu Shuo's face turned cold. Chapter 440. Yang Rumeng covered up the fact that she had kissed Jun Xiaoyao. But this still made Wu Shuo angry. That genius of the Jun family is really courting death. How dare he humiliate you? Wu Shuo said coldly. Wu Shuo, I've already let it go. I also advise you not to get involved in this matter. You can't predict what the son of God of the Jun family is capable of, Yang Rumeng said. Wu Shuo was in the heavenly god realm. However, Jun Xiaoyao gave Yang Rumeng an even more unfathomable feeling. In addition, he had obtained the blood of a remnant immortal. Who knew how strong Jun Xiaoyao would become in the future? So the best choice for the demon god palace was to stay out of it. Impossible. How can I, Wu Shuo, let the demon god palace lose its reputation? Don't worry. After I adjust my breathing and adapt to the current aura of heaven and earth, I'll go and settle the score with the son of God of the Jun family, Wu Shuo said coldly. After the ancient freaks were born, they needed a period of time to adjust their breathing and return to their peak state. Sigh. You. Yang Rumeng was speechless. But the ancient freak did have the ability. Just the cultivation realm alone was enough to crush the current generation of geniuses. In Yang Rumeng's estimation, no matter how strong Jun Xiaoyao was, even if he had broken through to the heavenly god realm, he should be on par with Wu Shuo. At the very least, Wu Shuo would be able to advance and retreat freely without any danger. Although that was the theory, for some reason, Yang Rumeng felt that Wu Shuo was like a second heavenly demon crown prince. As for the heavenly demon crown prince who had died in the lower world, no one knew where his ashes had drifted to, in another area of the ancient spiritual land. Several black-robed men appeared. They were the geniuses of the fallen god palace. The fallen god palace was really miserable now. The two top geniuses of the current generation had fallen at the hands of Jun Xiaoyao. Their only chance to turn the tables now was the ancient freak of the fallen god palace who was sleeping in the ancient spiritual land. The underworld prince's resting place should be here, a black-robed man said, holding a black token. The ancient freak slumbering in their fallen god palace was called the underworld prince. It was rumored that the bloodline of the ancient Netherworld king flowed in his body, and he could summon the demons of the Netherworld to fight for him. He also had all kinds of extremely terrifying Netherworld king abilities. In the Underworld Prince's epoch, he suppressed all the geniuses of his generation, looming over their heads like a nightmare. It could be said that Prince Ming Shun was the strongest trump card of the fallen god palace. Awaken the Underworld Prince, we must make Jun Xiaoyaro pay the price in blood. The fallen god palace's prodigies all roared. Each of them took out a pitch-black token and took up a different position. Then, they began to kneel on the ground and chant an unknown incantation. On the ground, circle after circle of underworld runes appeared. Then, the earth trembled and the heaven and earth rumbled. The sky was illuminated in a dark blood-red color, as if a great calamity was about to be born. Rumble. The ground shook violently like the surface of a drum, and cracks appeared. In the center of the underworld runes array, a pitch-black coffin suddenly rose from the ground. Then, with a loud boom, the entire coffin was directly shattered. A figure with a terrifying aura had awakened from his slumber and appeared in the world once again. That figure was shrouded in pitch-black fog. Every time he took a step, he would leave a footprint on the ground that was burning with dark green netherworld fire. It was a young man, and his skin was so pale that it looked a little sickly. He looked like a sleeping vampire. His entire body was shrouded in black fog, and his eyes were burning with the dark flames of hell. He wore a pitch-black robe embroidered with the terrifying scenes of the 18 layers of hell. He looked like a supreme ruler of the netherworld, and he controlled the will of life and death. Welcome back to the world, Underworld Prince. All around, the fallen god palace's prodigies all knelt on the ground and bowed. The Underworld Prince vaguely emitted a wisp of aura that made them tremble, and they felt like they were about to suffocate. They had seen the fallen Son of God and the Dark Son of God before, and they had felt their aura before. However, compared to the Underworld Prince in front of them, they paled in comparison. There was no comparison at all. I have finally awakened. I can feel that this era has the hope of proving my Tao, the Underworld Prince said, his voice extremely low and hoarse. If he had not sensed the changes in this era, even if he had been summoned, he would not have awakened. This era was his era of proving his Tao. Your Highness, we have something to report to you, one of the fallen god palace's prodigies said in a trembling voice. Since the Underworld Prince had reappeared, it should be a nightmare for Jun Xiaoyaro and the rest of the Jun family. The fallen god palace's prodigies had been waiting for a long time. They had also told the Underworld Prince some of the things that had happened. The Jun family again. The Underworld Prince's eyes were burning with the dark flames of hell. Why did he say again? That was because in the era when the Underworld Prince was born, the Jun family also had a heaven-defying cultivator, who could be said to be his nemesis. Originally, that era was the era when the Underworld Prince could control the world with one hand. However, because the Jun family's prodigy was too outstanding, he could not become the emperor alone, which became a regret. I don't care about the Jun family's son of God. What I care about is the ancient freak sleeping in the Jun family, the Underworld Prince said in a hoarse voice. In the eyes of an ancient freak like him, the current generation's prodigies were like ants to him. Only the Jun family's prodigies, who were also ancient freaks, were his main targets to eliminate. Your Highness, the fallen god palace happened to be involved in a Kingslayer plan. Someone can calculate the resting place of the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family. We can set up in advance to trap and kill them, the fallen god palace's prodigy said. The Underworld Prince's eyes lit up when he heard that. Very well, but now, I need to harmonize with the aura of heaven and earth. When I am in peak condition, I will strike, the Underworld Prince said. Yes, Your Highness. The fallen god palace's prodigies all cupped their hands together. The Underworld Prince looked into the distance. His eyes were like the end of the abyss of hell. You haven't woken up yet. In that case, I will strike first. Lord Grim, Aswu Shoror, the Underworld Prince, and the other ancient freaks awakened. Ancient freaks began to awaken in the entire ancient spiritual land. Although there weren't many of them, each of them was extremely powerful. They were the overlords of their respective eras. Because they weren't creatures of the immortal ancient, They could all enter the mystic region after the immortal ancient world ended. One could imagine that a true golden age of prodigies was about to arrive. As time passed, half a year passed in the blink of an eye. Before they knew it, more than a year had passed since the immortal ancient world opened. In this half a year, the ancient freaks that had awakened in the ancient spiritual land didn't do anything. Because they were all adjusting their breathing, adapting to the aura of heaven and earth, and adjusting themselves to peak condition. Instead, some of the immortal ancient races became restless and began to head to the ancient spiritual land. In addition, there was something else that caught everyone's attention. The three-eyed sacred clan, the ancient sorcerer clan, the dragon-human clan, and other immortal ancient races began to deliberately stir up trouble. And the target was the Jun family of the ancients. Some people said that it was because Jun Xiaoyaro had offended the three major races. There was also news that the Heavenly Eye Saint, Little Sorcerer God, and Ao Guang, the three young kings of the immortal ancient races, were hostile to Jun Xiaoyaro and the Jun family. They might really strike soon. Chapter 441. In the ancestral land of the Dragon Men. Ao Guang, Ao Luan, Long Bichi, Bai Mai and the others had been guarding the ancient dragon cave for the past 6 months. Ao Guang had been guarding the cave because he wanted to perfect his natal divine weapon. On the other hand, he wanted to know if Long Outyen could come out alive. If not, he would have to find someone else to enter the forbidden heavenly heritage site. Ao Luan and Long Bichi were worried about Long Outyen's safety. Bai Mai also looked worried, but she hoped that Long Outyen would never come out. It's been 6 months. Cousin, did something really happen to young Master Long? Ao Luan asked anxiously. After all, there had been no news from Long Outyen for a long time. No one knew if he was dead or alive. He didn't listen to my warning and went into the deepest part of the ancient dragon cave. With his strength, he should be dead. Ao Guang shook his head. He had thought highly of Long Outyen and wanted him to help him get the immortal ancient token. Now, it seemed that he had no chance. How could it be? Long Bichi was also in disbelief. Long Outyen was the forbidden first talent of Zulong, the chosen one. How could he die so easily? Suddenly, the ancient dragon cave, which had been quiet for a long time, began to rumble and shake. Ao Guang looked over with a deep look in his eyes. Ao Luan and the others also quickly looked over. Rumble. The floating island where the ancient dragon cave was located began to shake violently. Mountain rocks began to roll down continuously. Amidst the tremors, the entire ancient dragon cave exploded with a boom. A figure rose into the sky like a deity descending from the heavens. Boundless dragon chi exploded, causing the surrounding void to vibrate violently. It was as if waves were rumbling. Vaguely, one could see the shadow of an extremely ancient dragon with a desolate aura filling the entire sky. Could it be? Ao Guang's eyes were filled with shock. He couldn't believe this fact. Long Outyen's heroic figure was revealed amidst the boundless dragon energy. Dragon horns grew on his forehead. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His body was crystal clear and surrounded by dragon chi. The surrounding space kept shaking. At this moment, Long Outyen was full of vigor. He did not look like he was defeated by Jun Xiaoyaro. His entire being seemed to have undergone a metamorphosis, radiating with new life. Most importantly, the aura Long Outyen was emitting had reached the heaven god realm. Moreover, he wasn't even an early-stage heavenly god, but a mid-stage heavenly god. Ao Luan, Long Bichi, and the others were overjoyed. Their faces flushed with excitement. Bai Mai forced a smile on her face, but her heart was filled with shock. She did not expect that Long Outyen actually broke through to the middle-stage celestial deity realm in this half a year of closed seclusion. Ao Guang's eyes were also incomparably deep with a hint of surprise. Young Master Long, Big Brother Ao Tien, Ao Luan and Long Bichi were overjoyed. They were naturally happy that Long Outyen could rise again. Hee hee. Long Outyen chuckled. His eyes were brimming with confidence. Jun Xiaoyao, just you wait. Long Outyen said in his heart. He descended from the sky and landed in front of Ao Luan and the others. You've entered the deepest part of the ancient dragon cave? Ao Guang stared at Long Outyen. Long Outyen sneered in his heart, but on the surface, he said calmly, "That's right. I have to thank the dragon-human tribe for giving me this opportunity." Long Outyen's strength had increased tremendously, and he had also reached the heavenly god realm. Therefore, he was not as wary of Ao Guang as before. He could see that Ao Guang's strength was indeed not weak. He was in the late-stage heavenly god realm. However, for Long Outyen, it was only a small difference in cultivation level. It should not be difficult for him to challenge someone of a higher cultivation level. In addition to the legacy of the ancient Void Dragon tribe, he had also obtained half a scroll of the Spacebook. What opportunities are there in the deepest part of the ancient dragon cave? Ao Guang continued to ask. Long Outyen said calmly, "To be honest, I've refined one of the ancient Void Dragon's remains." Long Outyen could not hide the fact that he had refined the ancient Void Dragon. However, he would not be foolish enough to reveal the Spacebook. It's the remains of an ancient Void Dragon. Ao Guang's eyes were filled with envy. He did not suspect that Long Outyen was lying. When he had broken through earlier, he had vaguely seen the ancient Void Dragon in the sky. Is there nothing else? Ao Guang continued to ask. No, Long Outyen said. His heart was cold. However, he still needed the help of the dragon-human tribe now. He could not fall out with them. Otherwise, given Long Outyen's temper, he would have attacked Ao Guang long ago. After Long Outyen had come out of his seclusion, he had wanted to find trouble with Jun Xiaoyaro directly. However, there were two things that he needed to do. The first thing was that Ao Guang wanted him to go to the heavenly taboo ruins in the ancient spiritual land to look for the immortal ancient order. The second thing was that there was a message from the Zulong that the Lord Slayer plan had begun. They wanted Long Outyen to go to the ancient spiritual land. In that case, I'll let Jun Xiaoyaro live for 2 more days. Long Outyen also planned to go to the ancient spiritual land first. After all, the Lord Slayer plan was important. Young Master Long, the dragon-human tribe will also participate in your Lord Slayer plan, Ao Luan said. It turned out that during this period of time, the cloaked man by Wang Ting's side had also come to persuade the 3 major tribes. The three-eyed divine tribe, the ancient witch tribe, and the dragon-human tribe all had a grudge against Jun Xiaoyao. Therefore, they also joined the Lord Slayer plan and prepared to go to the ancient spiritual land to kill all the geniuses of the Jun family. Alright, let's go together, Long Outyen said. After a few days of preparation, Ao Guang, Ao Luan, Ao Zhon, Long Outyen, Long Bichi, Bai Mai and the others set off. Jun Xiaoyao, instead of letting you die first, why don't I let you be the last genius of the Jun family to fall and then let you die in endless pain? Long Outyen said resentfully. He was now 100% sure that he could kill Jun Xiaoyao. Even if Jun Xiaoyao had broken through to the celestial god stage, Long Outyen could still kill Jun Xiaoyao with his mid-stage celestial god stage cultivation, the inheritance of the ancient void dragon, the blood of the emperor dragon, and the space scroll. Therefore, in his eyes, Jun Xiaoyao was like a white mouse in a cage, waiting for endless pain and death. Behind Long Outyen and the others, Bai Mai-er's eyes were full of worry. The Jun family is in a bad situation. Has young Master Jun done anything? Bai Mai-er was worried. Her beautiful eyes also flashed with a hint of determination. Even if it was just for Jun Xiaoyao, she would find a way to secretly reveal the Lord Slayer plan to the sequence of the Jun family. Of course, she was taking a huge risk by doing so. If Long Outyen were to find out about this, she would be doomed. But Bai Mai-er had no regrets. For Jun Xiaoyao, she would even give up her life. The Lord Slayer plan, which was secretly planned by Zulong, the Wanhuang Spirit Mountain, the ancient Qilin Cave, the Fallen God Palace, the Wang family of the North, the 3 immortal ancient clans, the Holy Sect, the Celestial Cicada clan, and other forces, had finally been officially launched. Chapter 442. The Primordial Spirit Land was a vast piece of land. The entire Primordial Spirit Land was filled with dense spiritual qi, containing many treasures and opportunities. At this moment, several figures flashed across the sky, breaking the peace of the Primordial Spirit Land. Some of the geniuses from the outside world who had entered the primordial spirit land to search for resources widened their eyes when they saw this group of people. Am I seeing things? Is that the forbidden first generation from Zulong? And the Phoenix Child and the Phoenix Maiden from the Thousand Phoenix Spirit Mountain? Oh my God, the Chilean sun from the ancient Chilean cave is also here. Oh my God, why are all of the top geniuses from the Archean royalty gathered together? The geniuses from the outside world all sucked in a deep breath. Their hearts were filled with incomparable shock. In the immortal ancient world, the powerful geniuses were all looking for opportunities on their own. They had never seen so many geniuses gathered together. Long Outyen's golden eyes turned to the geniuses from the outside world. These geniuses from the outside world did not even have time to beg for mercy before their primordial spirits were shattered by the terrifying soul power, and they died on the spot. Long Outyen's strength had broken through to the mid-stage of the heavenly god realm, and his primordial spirit soul power had also increased tremendously. Before the three ancient freaks of the Jun family are completely eliminated, it's better for the Kingslayer project not to be discovered by outsiders, Long Outyen said calmly. There was a group of geniuses around him. Feng Tiange, Feng Luofei, and the Chilean sun. Long Bichi, Ao Luan, Bai Maya, and Ao Guang were also present. In addition, there were some geniuses from the Archean royalty following behind them. You are getting stronger and stronger, the Chilean sun said calmly. His long purple hair fluttered in the wind, and there was a purple Chilean horn on his forehead. He was wearing a purple Chilean armor, and his aura had also reached the heavenly god realm. In the past 6 months, the top geniuses had also broken through to the heavenly god realm. However, their breakthroughs were not as fast as Long Outyen's. Most of them had only reached the early stage of the heavenly god realm. Long Outyen smiled but did not say anything. Although the Archean royalty was the same to the outside world, they were still competing with each other internally. As the top geniuses from the Archean royalty, they all had a trump card or two. Long Outyen was not even he was confident that he could defeat everyone. Let's finish the plan as soon as possible. I have an ominous feeling in my heart, a young man with compound eyes said worriedly in front of them. Of the immortal of the Cicada Gu of the Cicada clan. He was of the Cicada of Cicada of the heavenly god realm. Of the Hevoth the heavenly god realm of the heavens with of the immortals. Of the ofs of the heavenly god. What can possibly happen? Unless the Jun family from the outside world can force their way into the immortal ancient world, who else can stop us? Long Outyen and the other prodigies of the far ancient royal family sneered with disdain. Of the right forces of them all of it. Furthermore, Jun Xiaoyaro, the backbone of the Jun family, had been quiet for a long time. Jun Lingtsang and the others were powerless to reverse the situation. Even if that's the case, we still have to hurry. If the three ancient freaks of the Jun family awaken and join forces with the Jun family, we will be in trouble. Feng Luofei of the 10,000 Phoenix Spirit Mountain frowned. The geniuses of the Jun family were strong enough to be at the top of the heavenly god realm. Not only did they have the 10 sequences, but also many ancient freaks. In the ancient spirit land, the Jun family had 3 ancient freaks. It was unimaginable for the other of the heavenly god realm. If the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family awakened together and joined forces with Jun Xiaoyao, Jun Lingtsang, and the other sequences, how could the others survive? Therefore, the purpose of the Kingslayer plan was to eliminate the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family before they could get rid of the rest of the sequences. If there was a gap in the younger generation of the Jun family, it would be a huge blow to the Jun family's future. It might even be the beginning of the Jun family's decline. Therefore, for the Archean royalty, the Kingslayer plan could only succeed. It could not fail. Let's go. I think the other team should be reaching their destination soon. Long Outyen waved his hand. Their team was just one of the teams. The other team was going to the place where the ancient freaks of the Jun family were hibernating. Previously, Jiyu Chanzi had already calculated the approximate location of the area and informed the other team. Soon, under Jiyu Chan's lead, Long Outyen and the others arrived at a valley with scorching heat waves. Is this the place? Long Outyen and the other geniuses of the Archean royalty all looked over. There's no time to lose. Let's start setting up the formation, Qilin said. The ancient freaks of the Jun family were not to be underestimated. Even if they were to counterattack before they died, they could drag one or two of them down with them. Therefore, they had already made careful preparations before the plan began. Soon, Long Outyen and the others began to set up the formation. As time passed, a terrifying killing formation was formed. This formation was called the Four Spirits Heaven Punishment Formation. It was controlled by 4 people, and its power was strong enough to severely injure or even kill geniuses of the same level. After the Four Spirits Heaven Punishment Formation was set up, Long Outyen, Feng Luofei, Huang Tiange, and Qilin presided over the formation. Along with the rumbling sound, the spirits of the 4 divine beasts appeared, exuding a terrifying wave of magic power that was about to destroy the entire valley. The ground caved in. Amid the terrifying wave of magic power, a roar suddenly came from the depths of the earth. How dare you plot against me, Jun Haoyang? Along with the roar, a terrifying aura of a late-stage heavenly god burst out like a geyser. At the same time, it was as if 9 great suns rose from the depths of the earth, exuding scorching heat waves. It is indeed him, the sequence number 1 of the Jun family in a certain era. He has the 9 suns imperial body and once suppressed the geniuses of the generation. Feeling the wave of magic power and the 9 terrifying suns, many of the geniuses of the Archean royalty were a little shocked. Even someone as prideful as Long Outyen had a solemn look in his eyes at this moment. Each of the 9 suns could easily reduce an early-stage heavenly god prodigy to dust. Everyone, let's work together and kill him with the 4 spirits heaven punishment formation. Long Outyen, Feng Luofei, Huang Tiange, and Qilin channeled their magic power. The 4 of them were all in the heavenly god realm. At this moment, the power of the 4 spirits heaven punishment formation was indescribable. Archean royalty, you are courting death. A cold shout came from the depths of the earth. The ancient freak of the Jun family, Jun Haoyang, who had the 9 suns imperial body, sensed the aura of the Archean royalty and was furious. However, he had just been awakened, and his aura had not merged with the current world at all. He had not adjusted his condition at all, and his strength was at its lowest. Coupled with the sudden attack of the Archean royalty, there were many layers of calculations, and even a joint attack formation was set up early. Jun Haoyang could not break through and could only fight to the death. In the end, Jun Haoyang self-detonated the 9 great suns, raising the area to the ground. The earth caved in and was full of cracks. Long Outyen and the other 3 were so shocked that the blood in their chests was boiling. In the end, Jun Haoyang self-detonated and ended his life. At the same time, in another area, the team led by the Underworld Prince, Little Sorcerer God, Heavenly Eye Saint, and other young kings of the immortal ancient world were also attacking another ancient freak of the Jun family. The female ancient freak of the Jun family was also surrounded and killed as soon as she was awakened. In the end, she died with hatred. In the end, only one ancient freak of the Jun family was left, and he was not killed yet. Chapter 443. After killing Jun Haoyang, everyone on Long Outyen's side still had some lingering fear in their eyes. Fortunately, they had prepared the 4 spirits heaven punishment formation beforehand. Otherwise, the self-destruction alone would have taken 1 or 2 people down with them. As for the ordinary geniuses of the Archean royalty who came with them, they were all scared out of their wits, and their legs were trembling. The geniuses of the Jun family were already powerful enough. These ancient freaks were even more abnormally strong. Now, they were somewhat glad that they had prepared the Kingslayer plan in advance. Otherwise, if the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family were to wake up at the same time and join forces, wouldn't they be able to conquer half of the immortal ancient? They couldn't even deal with Jun Xiaoyaro, Jun Lingcang, and the others, let alone these ancient freaks of the Jun family. Among everyone present, only Bai Maya was upset. Her heart was completely on Jun Xiaoyao's side. Anything that would harm Jun Xiaoyao's interests was unacceptable to her. The fall of the ancient freaks of the Jun family was not a good thing for Jun Xiaoyao. Bai Maya was already thinking about how to tell the sequence of the Jun family. At this time, Long Outyen looked at Jiyu Chanzi and asked, Jiyu Chanzi, haven't you figured out the sleeping place of the last ancient freak of the Jun family? Previously, Jiyu Chanzi had already figured out the sleeping places of Jun Haoyang and another female ancient freak of the Jun family. However, the last one was not directly figured out. Jiyu Chanzi shook his head and said, that ancient freak of the Jun family is more complicated. It feels like he is covered by some kind of aura. It will take some time. Among the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family, that one was the most mysterious and powerful. Even his sleeping place was difficult to figure out. We have to figure it out. That ancient freak of the Jun family seems to be the most powerful of the 3, Long Outyen said in a deep voice. Before entering the immortal ancient world, Zulong had secretly investigated. He knew most of the details of the 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family sleeping in the immortal ancient world. The last ancient freak was the most terrifying one. It was rumored that he was the sequence 0 of a certain era of the Jun family. He had some kind of powerful constitution. In his era, he had stunned all living beings. If it weren't for the fact that his era wasn't suitable for him to attain the Tao, his bottom line would have been the Chaos Tao Sovereign at the very least. Don't worry, I will calculate it. Then, he took out a turtle shell that was used for divination. This tortoise shell was extremely simple. It was an ancient item passed down from the ancestors of the celestial cicada royal clan. It was rumored to be a tortoise shell left behind by a pure-blooded Xuanwu. Jiyu Chanzi slapped his chest with one hand and coughed up a mouthful of blood, which splashed onto the tortoise shell. A certain price had to be paid in order to figure out where the last ancient freak of the Jun family was hibernating. Jiyu Chanzi's aura immediately weakened. He looked as if he had aged more than 10 years in an instant. Don't worry, if this plan succeeds, the Archean royalty won't mistreat your celestial cicada royal family, Long Outyen and the others promised. Jiyu Chanzi nodded slightly and began to immerse himself in divination. On the other side, after killing the female ancient freak from the Jun family, everyone was waiting for news from Jiyu Chanzi. However, while they were waiting, everyone was sizing up the Underworld Prince with surprise in their eyes. The Underworld Prince's strength is just too strong. An immortal ancient creature with a skull staff and a white bone mask said in a low voice. He was one of the 4 great clans of the immortal ancient, the young king of the ancient sorcerer clan, Little Sorcerer God. Before the sleeping ancient freak woke up, the 4 young kings of the immortal ancient world were the strongest in the immortal ancient world. But now, even Little Sorcerer God was shocked after sensing the strength of the Underworld Prince. The female ancient freak from the Jun family was killed by the Underworld Prince alone. The others didn't interfere at all. They didn't even set up the 4 spirits heaven punishment array. Part of the reason for the death of the female ancient freak from the Jun family was that she had just woken up and hadn't recovered to her peak state. But it was also evident that the Underworld Prince was extremely powerful. That's right. His strength has probably reached some kind of extreme in the heavenly god realm, another slender and muscular man said. Between his eyebrows, there was a 3rd vertical pupil. That pupil seemed to contain a small universe. He was the heavenly eye saint of the 3-eyed saint clan, one of the 4 young kings of the immortal ancient world. But now, the Underworld Prince had stolen a lot of the limelight from the 2 young kings. The saint was also in the team. His cultivation had also reached the early stage of the heavenly god realm. However, after witnessing the strength of the Underworld Prince, even the saint's son felt powerless in his heart. But when he thought about how the Underworld Prince would deal with the Jun family, the saint became interested. He was very curious. Jun Xiaoyaro had beaten him until he couldn't fight back. How many moves could he take from the Underworld Prince? The Underworld Prince felt some of the shocked and respectful gazes around him, but he didn't care at all. In his eyes, there was only his destined opponent. Lord Grim, when the place of your hibernation is divined, it will be the end of your legend, the Underworld Prince murmured to himself. In his era, the only one who could compete with him was the Jun family's sequence 0 of that generation, Lord Grim, who lay drunk on the battlefield. Because the whole Kingslayer plan was carried out in secret, Jun Lingtsang, Jun Wushuang, and the other sequences didn't realize it. In the outside world, beside the immortal ancient mirror, everyone saw this scene. But the immortal ancient mirror was isolated from the outside world. No news could be transmitted, so the Jun family couldn't do anything. However, what was surprising was that the elders of the Jun family did not lose their composure and flew into a rage. Instead, their faces remained cold. They believed that Jun Xiaoyaro wouldn't let them down. The blood shed by the Jun family would make the Archean royalty, the fallen god palace, and the other forces get revenge 1,000 times over. They were waiting. Compared to the silence of the Jun family, Zulong and the other forces, who were incomparably angry before, were now sneering. After the last ancient freak of the Jun family fell, it would be the Jun family's sequence Zero's turn. Finally, they would trap and kill Jun Xiaoyaro. No matter how strong Jun Xiaoyaro was, could he defeat all the geniuses and ancient freaks? Obviously not. The whole situation in the immortal ancient mirror was strange. At this moment, in a place of opportunity in the ancient spiritual land, a handsome young man with a tall figure was refining a fortuitous encounter. His eyes were covered with a layer of black cloth. His aura was strong, and he had reached the mid-stage of the heavenly god realm. It was the sequence Zero, Jun Lingtsang, the man with polychoria. At a certain moment, Jun Lingtsang, whose eyes were covered with cloth, turned his face in a certain direction. His tone was indifferent. "Who is it? Come out." A beauty in a pink dress with a delicate and seductive face and 6 foxtails appeared. It was Bai Mai. Chapter 444. You are the goddess of the heavenly fox clan, a far ancient royal family. Although Jun Lingtsang's eyes were covered with a black cloth, it did not prevent him from recognizing her. Although the goddess of the heavenly fox clan was not weak, she posed no threat to Jun Lingtsang. Therefore, Jun Lingtsang did not mind. He only said in an indifferent tone, "If you want to plot against me, I can only say that you are too naive. Let those geniuses of the Archean royalty do it. I have no hostility toward you," Bai Maya said. After Long Outyen and the others killed the ancient freak, Jun Haoyang, Bai Maya found an excuse to leave and come to the Jun family to inform them. Oh, the sun rose from the west. Jun Lingtsang was also a little surprised. The far ancient royal family and the Archean royalty were of the same origin, and most of them were hostile to the Jun family. Moreover, Jun Lingtsang vaguely heard that this goddess of the heavenly fox clan seemed to be related to Long Outyen. Jun Lingtsang did not care about Bai Maya, but he secretly kept an eye on her. Long Outyen might be lying in ambush in the dark. Seeing that Jun Lingtsang was a little cautious, Bai Maya said in a sincere tone, "I came alone. No one is hiding in the dark. As for why I am looking for you, it is to tell you something very important," Bai Maya said in a serious tone. "What is it?" Jun Lingtsang raised his eyebrows. Then, Bai Maya told Jun Lingtsang about the Kingslayer plan and the fall of the 2 ancient freaks of the Jun family. What? Jun Lingtsang's aura shook, and cracks appeared on the ground. He could not calm down. Jun Lingtsang knew that there were 3 ancient freaks of the Jun family sleeping in the immortal ancient world, but he did not deliberately look for them. If the ancient freaks of the Jun family wanted to wake up, they would naturally wake up on their own. They did not need to wake them up. However, Jun Lingtsang didn't expect that the Archean royalty would find a descendant of the celestial cicada royal family and figure out where the ancient freak of the Jun family was hibernating. However, Jun Lingtsang's temperament was naturally not that simple. After calming down, he said, "How do I know if this is true or not? It won't be long before they find the last ancient freak of the Jun family. When that time comes, I'm afraid that the entire ancient spiritual land will be shaken. By then, it will be too late for you to regret." Bai Maya's tone was very sincere. Jun Lingtsang fell silent. After a long while, he asked, "Why are you telling me this? If I remember correctly, you're with Long Outyen, aren't you?" Hearing Jun Lingtsang's question, Bai Maya was stunned at first, then a blush appeared on her pretty face, and a sweet smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. "That's because Maya has met the true son of heaven, young Master Jun," Bai Maya said in a daze. "It's Xiaoyao's cousin?" Jun Lingtsang was also stunned for a moment before he came to his senses. Then, he sighed in his heart. He didn't understand what method Jun Xiaoyaro had used to bring this heavenly lady of the celestial fox clan to the Jun family's side. However, if she had been subdued by Jun Xiaoyaro, then by my words could be believed. For someone like Jun Xiaoyaro, who could create miracles at any time, subduing a heavenly lady of the celestial fox clan was a normal thing. Thank you for your information. The Jun family will not sit still and wait for death. Jun Lingsong's tone was cold and murderous. The Archean royalty and other forces dared to plot against the Jun family. They would definitely pay a heavy price. Are we going to look for young Master Jun? By my beautiful peach blossom eyes sparkled. She had been undercover for a long time and hadn't seen Jun Xiaoyaro for a long time. Naturally, she missed him. Don't disturb him for the time being. Let him cultivate by himself. Even if the younger generation of the Jun family dies, as long as Xiaoyaro is here, we will be fine, Jun Lingsong said. He wouldn't disturb Jun Xiaoyao's cultivation. It could be said that Jun Xiaoyaro alone was more important than the 10 sequences of the Jun family put together. Let me, the first sequence of the sequence, bear this kind of responsibility. Jun Lingsong stood up and stood with his hands behind his back. There was a sense of dignity without being angry. If Jun Xiaoyaro was said to be the sharpest spear of the younger generation of the Jun family, Jun Lingsong was the strongest shield. Jun Xiaoyaro only needed to cultivate in peace and grow up. As for the other trivial matters, Jun Lingsong would bear them alone. Well then, I should leave. Bai Maya nodded slightly and retreated. Jun Lingsong was left standing alone. The ultimate battle of the immortal ancient era has begun, Jun Lingsong murmured. However, this ultimate battle was not a free-for-all between the geniuses. Instead, many Archean royalty and immortal forces would join forces against the Jun family. The Jun family could not lose this battle. After hearing the news, Jun Lingsong also began to plan. Naturally, he wouldn't be stupid enough to deal with all the enemy geniuses alone. Instead, he took the initiative to inform the other sequences. Now, among the 10 sequences of the Jun family, except for the 3 who had died, the lowest cultivation level of the other sequences had reached the small completion of the true god realm. After learning that the 2 ancient freaks of the Jun family had been plotted against and killed, the other sequences of the Jun family were furious. The members of the Jun family were extremely united. They would rise or fall together. They couldn't allow the enemy forces to plot against the ancient freaks of the Jun family. It's not enough. After joining forces with the other sequences, Jun Lingsong still frowned. It was difficult to save the last ancient freak of the Jun family from the enemy forces with just the 7 sequences of the Jun family. It was still a bit difficult. Oh right, there's still the Jiang family. In addition, I can also contact Xiaoyao's followers and those around him, Jun Lingsong thought. What he needed to do now was to unite all the forces that could be united and settle the score with the Archean royalty and other forces. One could only imagine how shocking this battle would be. Without further ado, Jun Lingsong immediately took action. He went to find the geniuses of the Jiang family. The second sequence, Jun Wushuang, went to find those around Jun Xiaoyao. A few days later, Jun Lingsong arrived at the ancestral land of the Beauty tribe. This was because he had already heard that Jiang Shengyi was rather close to the Beauty race. I'm Jun Lingsong of the Jun family. I'd like to see Jiang Shengyi, Jun Lingsong said. Soon, the geniuses of the Beauty tribe found Jiang Shengyi. When she heard that someone from the Jun family came to find her, Jiang Shengyi's heart trembled. She walked out with a hint of anxiety and anticipation. When she saw Jun Lingsong, she was stunned for a moment. A hint of disappointment appeared in her eyes, but she quickly covered it up. Jun Lingsong, it's you. What's the matter? Jiang Shengyi smiled faintly. The Jun family and the Jiang family had intermarried for generations. The relationship between the younger generations was also good. The 2 families almost wore the same pants. Jun Lingsong also told Jiang Shengyi everything. Jun Lingsong completely trusted the Jiang family. What? There's such a thing. Jiang Shengyi frowned. She realized the seriousness of the situation. The Archean royalty and other forces wanted to create a gap in the younger generation of the Jun family. Then Xiaoyao, Jiang Shengyi couldn't help but worry. Jun Xiaoyao was the one with the most potential, which made him the easiest target. Jun Lingcong didn't know what to say. Jiang Shengyi seemed to be overly concerned about Jun Xiaoyao. However, he still said, "Don't worry. Cousin Xiaoyao should be fine. Right now, they're mainly targeting the ancient freaks of the Jun family. Once the ancient freaks are eliminated, the Jun family's sequence will be targeted." Jiang Shengyi nodded slightly. Her hanging heart was temporarily relieved. She said, "Don't worry. Our two families share honor and disgrace. Our Jiang family won't sit idly by when the Jun family is in danger. I'll contact the geniuses of the Jiang family and go with you to rescue them." "Okay, thank you." Jun Lingcong cupped his hands solemnly. As the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. If it were the geniuses of other forces, they wouldn't agree so easily in such a situation. Because there were too many opponents, too strong, and too terrifying. Only the Jiang family was willing to help the Jun family unconditionally. After that, Jun Lingcong left to continue looking for other reinforcements. Jiang Shengyi went to find Jiang Luoli and the others. Leisurely literature, let the soul travel. Chapter 445. In a certain land of opportunity in the ancient spiritual land, two beautiful figures were cultivating. One of them was Linglong, who was petite and cute. Her fine black hair was tied into two ponytails, making her look lively and playful. Her curled eyelashes were long, and below them were a pair of bright and lively eyes. Her nose was tall and pretty, and her lips were pink and sakura. She talked to the girl beside her from time to time. When she smiled, she revealed two small canine teeth, and there were two cute dimples on her cheeks. She was the pearl of the Jiang family, Jiang Luoli. Although time continued to pass, Jiang Luoli's height seemed to have solidified. There weren't many changes, and she was still 1.5 meters in height. As for the girl who was talking to her, her skin was like jade, and her appearance was pretty. Her long blue hair poured down in torrents. It was Jiang Chuhan. The opportunities here are more or less digested. "Let's go find Sister Shengyi," Jiang Chuhan said. "Oh." Jiang Luoli nodded slightly, but she didn't seem to be too interested. "What's wrong? I remember that you were the most clingy with Sister Shengyi. Why didn't you go find her after entering Immortal Ancient?" Jiang Chuhan said. "It's nothing. People have to grow up. I can't rely on others. Luo Li has to work hard to become stronger." Jiang Luoli clenched her fists and encouraged herself. Then, she smiled and said, "Don't talk about me. Why didn't I see Hua Yuanxiu looking for you?" Hearing the name Hua Yuanxiu, Jiang Chuhan shook her head slightly. Now, she felt more and more indifferent towards Hua Yuanxiu. When she thought about how she was going to marry Hua Yuanxiu after Immortal Ancient ended, Jiang Chuhan felt unhappy. After entering Immortal Ancient, I don't know where he went. Maybe he went to train by himself and find opportunities. But that's good. Out of sight, out of mind. Jiang Chuhan said indifferently. She didn't care about Hua Yuanxiu at all. At this time, a beautiful figure rushed over from the distance. Her snow-white clothes fluttered, and she was exceptionally beautiful. It was Jiang Shengyi. It's Sister Shengyi. Jiang Chuhan was surprised. She didn't expect Jiang Shengyi to take the initiative to find them. "Sister Shengyi," Jiang Luoli also called out. Your cultivation is not bad," Jiang Shengyi replied. However, when she looked at Jiang Luoli, there was a hint of awkwardness in the depths of her beautiful eyes. She didn't know why, but she always felt guilty when facing Jiang Luoli, as if she had done something wrong. Jiang Shengyi also understood that Jiang Luoli looked like a naive girl, but sometimes her mind was extremely meticulous. It was impossible for Jiang Luoli to be unaware of her relationship with Jun Xiaoyao. But she had never taken the initiative to mention it. However, her relationship with Jiang Luoli had undergone a subtle change. He was no longer as clingy as before, and there was a faint layer of separation between them. But now was not the time to think about such things. Jiang Xingyi sifted through the chaotic thoughts in her mind and said, "This time, I came to find you because of something important. It's about the Jun family." Jiang Xingyi briefly explained the matter. "What? There's actually such a thing?" Jiang Chuhan was also shocked. This was definitely a major event that would shake the entire immortal ancient and even affect the power structure in the future. "Is Big Brother Xiaoyaro okay?" Jiang Luoli asked nervously. She had also heard about Jun Xiaoyaro entering immortal ancient. However, in order not to disturb Jun Xiaoyao's cultivation, Jiang Luoli suppressed her longing and didn't take the initiative to look for him. "Xiaoyaro is fine. Right now, the ancient freaks of the Jun family are being targeted, so our Jiang family has to gather our strength to help the Jun family," Jiang Xingyi said. Let's go and find Jiang Shuling and the others." Jiang Luoli nodded. She also realized the seriousness of the situation. "Sigh, it's a pity that we don't know where Hua Yuanxiu went." Jiang Chuhan shook her head. She didn't expect Hua Yuanxiu to be very powerful, but he was still a force to be reckoned with. Soon, the three women of the Jiang family took action and gathered the Jiang family's geniuses. On the other side, Jun Wushuang went to find Jun Xiaoyao's people. Somewhere in the ancient spiritual land, a figure was fighting with a spirit beast. The spirit beast's aura had reached the heavenly god realm. Meanwhile, the young man fighting against the spirit beast was valiant and heroic. His upper body was naked, and there was a sun totem on his chest that released endless brilliance. He held the star execution destruction bow in his hand, and his golden eyes were as bright as the sun. It was Yi Yu, the successor of the ancient emperor family, the Yi family. He pulled the bowstring and released 9 arrows at the same time. All 9 arrows landed on the same spot and directly pierced through the heavenly god realm spirit beast. After killing the spirit beast, Yi Yu also stepped forward and took the sun gold fruit that the spirit beast was guarding. At that moment, a divine light flashed through Yi Yu's golden eyes. "Who is it?" A figure appeared in midair. It was a man dressed in golden armor with a 9-dragon crown on his head. He was handsome and mighty, and his aura was extraordinary. It was the second sequence of the Jun family, Jun Wushuang. "So it's the second sequence." Yi Yu lowered his guard and cupped his hands slightly. Although Yi Yu only recognized Jun Xiaoyaro as his master, he would still show some respect to the other sequences of the Jun family. "Yi Yu, your strength has reached the heavenly god realm." Jun Wushuang was surprised. Who would have thought that even Jun Xiaoyao's follower could reach the heavenly god realm? However, when he thought of Yi Yu's background as the successor of the ancient emperor family, he was actually considered the successor of an immortal force and would not be weaker than the other successors. "Why is the second sequence looking for me?" Yi Yu asked. "It's like this." Jun Wushuang frowned and told Yi Yu about the matter. "Since there is such a thing, then I, Yi Yu, will not shirk my responsibility." Yi Yu agreed without hesitation. The Jun family's matter was Jun Xiaoyao's matter. Jun Xiaoyao's matter was Yi Yu's matter. "Good, Son of God did not misjudge you." Jun Wushuang nodded. Then, he and Yi Yu began to look for the others. Soon, they also found Yang Qingying. Yang Qingying, who had the god-devouring demonic skill, grew very quickly in the immortal ancient world. Previously, with the help of Jun Xiaoyaro, she devoured Saintess Mimihu and the Buddha Lady of Little Western Paradise, and her cultivation broke through to the true god realm. Now, she had reached the complete true god realm. Compared to Yi Yu, who was in the heavenly god realm, it was nothing. However, Yang Qingying was from the lower realm. Now that she could cultivate to this realm, it was already extremely fast. After Jun Wushuang's explanation, Yang Qingying also joined in without hesitation. In another area, there was a young man in a black and gold robe. His hair was black like ink, his skin was pale, and he had a handsome appearance. He looked tall and skinny, with the appearance of a pale-faced scholar. However, the aura that emanated from his body had reached the heavenly god realm. There was also a sense of reincarnation that permeated the air. Opposite him, a few immortal ancient living beings revealed a look of horror. Let us go. We were blind. How dare you snatch the opportunity from me? Courting death." The handsome young man in black reached out with one hand. A blurry image of a wheel appeared in the void as if it was going to pull all living beings into reincarnation. Those few immortal ancient living beings did not even have time to let out a scream before they turned into ashes. This feeling is pretty good. The handsome young man in black smiled slightly. Without Jun Xiaoyaro by his side, he finally experienced the feeling of freedom and being high and mighty again. Chapter 446. This handsome young man in black was the ancient freak of the reincarnation demon sect, the reincarnation sacred physique, Wang Chuan. As an ancient freak, his cultivation level had reached the heavenly god realm. He was supposed to be high and mighty, but Jun Xiaoyaro planted a slave mark on him and made him a slave. At first, Wang Chuan was not used to it. But as time passed, he did not feel anything. The Jun family did not treat this ancient freak unfairly and gave him many opportunities. It could be said that Wang Chuan was treated quite well and did not feel like a slave at all. But occasionally, Wang Chuan would still miss the time when he was free. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from afar. As expected of the ancient freak of the reincarnation demon sect. He has the reincarnation sacred physique and his cultivation level has reached the heavenly god realm. Wang Chuan looked over and saw that it was Jun Wushuang, Yi Yu, and Yang Qingying. It's you guys. Wang Chuan looked around and found that Jun Xiaoyaro was not here. Jun Wushuang was very straightforward and told Wang Chuan the purpose of his visit. Wang Chuan thought for a moment. To be honest, anyone with a discerning eye knew that this operation would be very dangerous. After all, there were too many enemies and they were too strong. But the Jun family did not treat him badly. Although Jun Xiaoyaro planted a slave mark on him, he did not humiliate him or anything. It was already very good. And if he did not agree and Jun Xiaoyaro found out, the consequences would be tragic. So Wang Chuan did not hesitate and agreed directly. Jun Wushuang nodded. Next, they went to look for the nine-headed lion. As a top Archean royal family, the nine-headed lion's strength was unquestionable. He had also reached the peak of the true god realm and was a very strong helper. In addition, they also found some people who were related to Jun Xiaoyaro. For example, the eldest princess of the Panwu Jin dynasty, Wu Mingyu, the saintess of the Holy Spirit College, Hua Shiqing, and Su Ziqiong of the Purple Mansion Sacred Ground. Because of their relationship with Jun Xiaoyaro, they agreed without hesitation. In short, the Jun family sequence united all the forces that could be united and prepared to fight to the death with the Archean royalty and other forces. For a moment, a storm was brewing in the ancient spiritual land. As time passed, about a month had passed. On a mountain peak in the ancient spiritual land, Jiyu Chanzi of the celestial cicada royal race opened his eyes and looked at the tortoiseshell in his hand. "I've finally found it." Jiyu Chanzi smiled. He had paid a huge price in order to figure out the resting place of the last ancient freak of the Jun family. Is it finally out? Long Outyen and the other Archean royalty prodigies were also excited. They had been waiting for this moment. "It should be around the mysterious Heaven Mountain range," said Jiyu Chanzi. Long Outyen said, "Okay, let's set off immediately. Also, send a message to the other team and tell them to head to the mysterious Heaven Mountain range as well." They began to move. When the last ancient freak of the Jun family falls, it will be the turn of the Jun family's current sequence. Jun Xiaoyao, I wonder how you'll feel when you come out and find that you're the only one left in the Jun family. Long Outyen was suddenly filled with anticipation. Moreover, he didn't just want the Jun family's sequence dead. Those who were related to Jun Xiaoyaro, such as his followers, would also be killed. As for the women related to Jun Xiaoyaro, they would all be reduced to female slaves. This was Long Outyen's revenge on Jun Xiaoyaro. Long Outyen's team and the Underworld Prince's team set off together and headed to the mysterious Heaven Mountain range. The commotion was quite big, and many of the surrounding prodigies sensed it. However, they didn't have to hide anything anymore, because after killing the last ancient freak of the Jun family, they would attack the Jun family's sequence. Oh my god, why are all the Archean royalty prodigies working together? Judging from their direction, they should be heading to the mysterious Heaven Mountain range. What's going on? Is there some heaven-defying opportunity in the mysterious Heaven Mountain range? Otherwise, Why are all these prodigies heading there in groups? I'm not sure, but something big is definitely going to happen. This commotion also attracted the attention of the other prodigies in the ancient spiritual land. Even some of the ancient freaks who were not present were attracted to the scene. The prodigies of the G family of the ancients, the Yi family of the ancients, the celestial demon cult, and other forces were also alarmed and secretly followed behind. They also expected that something big was going to happen. On the other side, Jun Lingtsang, who had received the news, also gathered everyone and headed toward the mysterious Heaven Mountain range. For a time, the entire ancient spiritual land was in a state of turmoil. An earth-shattering ultimate battle was about to begin. Compared to the treacherous situation in the ancient spiritual land, the other parts of the immortal ancient world were much calmer. The immortal ancient Tao Lake was also peaceful. However, this tranquility was broken. In an area of the immortal ancient Tao Lake, thunder suddenly filled the sky. Thick layers of clouds gathered in the sky, and bolts of lightning struck down. Among the flashing lightning, a figure soared into the sky, opened his mouth, and roared, absorbing the lightning in the sky. It was Lei Mingyuan. His eyes were like two thunder lakes, emitting 3 feet of lightning. His body was surrounded by lightning, and the surface of his skin flashed with electricity from time to time. Lei Mingyuan's aura had reached the perfection true immortal realm. This kind of improvement was incomparably huge for him. Of course, this was all thanks to the thunder beast's remains and heart. My heavenly thunder body has been awakened. Lei Mingyuan's eyes were filled with excitement. It turned out that although his heavenly thunder body could be cultivated, it was in a state where it had not been completely awakened. As for the thunder beast's heart, it had completely awakened Lei Mingyuan's heavenly thunder body. Otherwise, his strength would not have skyrocketed to the perfection true immortal realm. Although the current him was still unable to compete with those ancient freaks and top prodigies, he had at least reached the level of a first-rate prodigy. And this was all brought to him by Jun Xiaoyao. Lord Son of God has yet to come out of seclusion. His improvement must be even greater. He might even break through to the heavenly god realm, Lei Mingyuan said. At the very most, Jun Xiaoyao was only 16 years old. A 16-year-old heavenly god realm powerhouse was simply unimaginable. Just as Lei Mingyuan was thinking, at the edge of the immortal ancient Tao Lake, a prodigy walked up tentatively. You are. Lei Mingyuan said warily. I am here to deliver a message on behalf of the Jun family's sequences. Before Jun Mulan and the other sequences left, they asked us to inform Son of God of this matter when he comes out of seclusion, the prodigy said. Then, the prodigy told Lei Mingyuan about this matter. What? The Jun family is facing such a crisis? Lei Mingyuan was also extremely shocked. Who would have thought that something like this would happen? I understand. When Lord Son of God comes out of seclusion, I will inform him immediately. Lei Mingyuan nodded. The prodigy left. How long will it take for Lord Son of God to come out of seclusion? Lei Mingyuan was a little anxious. Although his current identity was only Jun Xiaoyao's servant, in his heart, he had already regarded Jun Xiaoyao as a master worthy of following. Right at this moment, a terrifying pressure suddenly spread out like a geyser. That pressure had reached the heavenly god realm, that is. Lei Mingyuan's heart trembled. Chapter 447. Lei Mingyuan thought Jun Xiaoyao was about to come out. In the end, he sensed a terrifying dragon aura in that aura. Obviously, it couldn't be Jun Xiaoyao. Then there was only one candidate left. Princess Longji. Along with the powerful ripples, the Tao Lake was completely blown apart. Golden dragon chi filled the air and the faint roar of a dragon could be heard. A cold and elegant silhouette slowly appeared. It was Princess Longji. She was wearing a palace dress. Her bare feet were purer than snow. She stood in the air without a speck of dust. A pair of snow-white, slender legs were hidden by her dress. Her slender and graceful body was as lustrous as mutton-fat white jade, glowing with a luster. Her face was shrouded in fog and carried with it a cold and dominating aura. She was like an ancient empress. After refining the dragon corpse with the winged dragon's blood, Princess Longji's cultivation level broke through to the heavenly god realm without any surprise. Plus, as an ancient freak, she didn't just break through to the early stage of the heavenly god realm, she broke through to the intermediate stage. This capability, in the eyes of the younger generation, was definitely one of the best. Her powerful capabilities restored Princess Longji's confidence and arrogance. She no longer felt like she was being used as a mount by Jun Xiaoyao. Your capabilities. Lei Mingyuan was shocked. Though before Jun Xiaoyao, Princess Longji couldn't even withstand a single blow. However, she was, after all, an ancient freak. She still had the foundation that she should have. Princess Longji glanced at Lei Mingyuan, then looked away. At this moment, she was thinking. With my intermediate stage capabilities, even if Jun Xiaoyao breaks through to the heavenly god realm, he can't do anything to me. It's indeed a bit whimsical to have me as your mount. But this dragon corpse was given to me by him. Back then, I agreed because of the situation. It's not right to go back on my word. Princess Longji was in a dilemma. To be honest, her feelings towards Jun Xiaoyao had changed from pure hatred to something complicated. In the beginning, she really hated Jun Xiaoyao. After all, Jun Xiaoyao had trampled on her in front of many forces of the Huangtian mystic realm without showing any mercy. But later, when she was framed by Ao Luan, it was Jun Xiaoyao who saved her. It was also Jun Xiaoyao who helped her find out who the mastermind was. At that time, Princess Longji had mixed feelings towards him. After that, Jun Xiaoyao gave her the dragon corpse. Princess Longji didn't expect Jun Xiaoyao to be so willing to give her the dragon corpse. Even if he wanted her to be his mount, Princess Longji would still benefit from this deal. Hence, after Princess Longji had broken out of seclusion, she could have broken her promise and left. She could have even killed Jun Xiaoyao. However, Princess Longji bit her lip and hesitated. In the end, she didn't do it. Not for anything else, but because she was Princess Longji. Her words were worth 1,000 gold. If she broke her promise, Princess Longji's Taoist heart would crack. Because it was all thanks to Jun Xiaoyao's gift that she was able to break through to the heavenly god stage. Princess Longji, it was the Son of God who gave you this gift. You can't do anything that will disappoint the Son of God. Seeing Princess Longji's expression change, Lei Mingyuan thought she was going to break her promise, so he warned her. Do I need you to warn me? Princess Longji glared at Lei Mingyuan coldly. Lei Mingyuan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and took 2 steps back. The heavenly god stage's aura made him feel pressured. At that moment, in the depths of the immortal ancient Dao Lake, there was a faint sound of vibration. Could it be? Princess Longji and Lei Mingyuan were both stunned. At that moment, in the depths of the immortal ancient Dao Lake, where the spiritual qi was dense, Jun Xiaoyao sat in the void. The spiritual qi around him spun like a storm. Jun Xiaoyao had refined the blood of the remnant immortal into his body for a long time. The energy of the remnant immortal's blood was extremely vigorous. If it were an ordinary heavenly god stage powerhouse, they would probably explode. However, Jun Xiaoyao had the sacred body of the ancients and the immortal Deluo immortal body. He could withstand this pressure. Most importantly, in his Dantian, there was the origin of God. This was a Dao that belonged exclusively to Jun Xiaoyao. At least half of the energy of the remnant immortal's blood had been absorbed by the origin of God. The origin of God was like a black hole. It did not reject any kind of energy and absorbed it all. This terrifying devouring and absorption was tens of thousands of times more terrifying than the God-devouring demonic technique. Jun Xiaoyao closed his eyes and looked inside, observing the origin of God. This was the starting point of his own Dao, so it was called the origin. With the energy of the remnant immortal's blood being injected, the origin of the universe in the origin of God was boiling. Vaguely, there seemed to be the embryonic form of a universe. As a transmigrator, Jun Xiaoyao had always had a fundamental thought. Where did the universe come from? Now, Jun Xiaoyao looked inside the origin of God in his Dantian, as if he was witnessing an answer with his own eyes. This was because it seemed that a universe was about to be born from his origin of God. This was an extremely shocking scene. Finally, as the energy reached a certain threshold. Within the origin of God, there was a rumble, as if it was the first explosion between heaven and earth. Then, a ray of light that could split heaven and earth appeared in the origin of God that was filled with chaos. God said, "Let there be light." With the appearance of this ray of light, Jun Xiaoyao's entire body shook. A thick Daoist rhyme filled the air, as if it wanted to make one become an immortal. Jun Xiaoyao's heart surged with understanding. His hands began to move subconsciously. His fingers and palms streaked across the void, and Daoist patterns flashed past. After observing his own Dao, Jun Xiaoyao began to evolve his own magic. That's right. Jun Xiaoyao was creating his own magic. If outsiders knew about this, they would definitely be so shocked that their scalps would go numb. This was because creating one's own magic was not something that anyone could do. Even the most basic and simple magic required an extremely strong foundation to create. Generally speaking, even saints could only create some small magic. Only supreme beings and above were qualified to create some great magic that could be passed down for generations. As for more powerful supreme beings and the like, they might need to be created by more powerful supreme beings, chaos Dao beings, or even quasi-emperors. In the countless eras of the immortal realm, there were only one or two who began to create their own magic at the true God realm. And Jun Xiaoyao was doing this right now. His talent and comprehension were originally heaven-defying, and he could master any great magic after observing it for several hours. Now, Jun Xiaoyao was also about to create a great magic that was truly his own. And just as Jun Xiaoyao's origin of God was transforming, and he began to create his own magic. Above the firmament, dark clouds suddenly gathered, and terrifying seven-colored lightning surged and rolled, as if an apocalyptic lightning tribulation was brewing. That's the seven-colored ascension tribulation? Princess Longji's beautiful eyes widened at this scene. Wasn't the seven-colored lightning tribulation a great tribulation that would only appear when one became a saint? Why would it appear now? And who triggered this tribulation? Could it be? Princess Longji's expression froze, and her heart froze for a moment. Could it be the seven-colored ascension tribulation triggered by Jun Xiaoyao? Chapter 448. Dark clouds loomed over the sky as the rainbow lightning tribulation brewed. Within the immortal ancient Dao Lake, Jun Xiaoyao was still focused on creating his own special ability. Jun Xiaoyao did not create it. Once he created it, he would create a supreme special ability that would stun all living beings. This was Jun Xiaoyao's ambition. He also had the right to create a great special ability. In ancient times, the Thunder Emperor created a great special ability that was comparable to the true dragon and the divine phoenix. And the special ability that I, Jun Xiaoyao, create will surpass even great special abilities. Jun Xiaoyao's goal was firm. He would either do it or not. If he was going to do it, he would do it to the extreme. Let the universe tremble and all living beings tremble. Jun Xiaoyao moved his palms, and wisps of the universe's origin power wrapped around his fingers. The void trembled because of him. Above the sky, the rainbow lightning tribulation brewed as if it was about to fall. Jun Xiaoyao, on the other hand, was still replaying the scene in God's origin over and over in his mind. The scene of the light splitting the heavens and earth. God said, "Let there be light." Jun Xiaoyao muttered to himself. This scene seemed to have turned into a complicated Dao law that was deeply imprinted in his mind. At this moment, accompanied by the rumbling of thunder, above the 9 heavens, the rainbow lightning tribulation transformed into a terrifying pillar of lightning and crashed down. When this tribulation fell, even a quasi-sage who wanted to transcend the tribulation might not be able to withstand it. However, Jun Xiaoyao came to a realization at that very moment. He stood up and walked up to the sky step by step. He was actually walking towards the pillar of lightning. Princess Longji and Lei Mingyuan, who were watching from the sidelines, saw everything. That figure is Lord Son of God. When Lei Mingyuan saw the white-robed figure, his entire body shook, and his eyes were filled with shock. Princess Longji's beautiful eyes were also filled with unprecedented shock. Even with her temperament, she completely lost her composure when she saw this scene. That was the rainbow lightning tribulation. Even a quasi-sage might not be able to withstand it. Is Jun Xiaoyaro going to commit suicide? Seeing Jun Xiaoyaro step towards the rainbow lightning tribulation, Princess Longji couldn't help but think to herself. What happened next was something that Princess Longji would never forget. Jun Xiaoyaro stretched out his palm, and the power of the origin of the universe transformed into divine chains that shot out, interweaving into an eternal light in the void. This beam of light seemed to split the heavens and earth apart, breaking out from the primal chaos. That kind of power fluctuation was simply indescribable. Everything in the world seemed to be annihilated into ashes by this ray of light. Princess Longji's scalp went numb and her divine soul trembled. Her delicate body couldn't help but tremble. If it were her, facing Jun Xiaoyao's move, she would definitely fall. There was no chance of luck. This wisp of light was like a heavenly saber that cut through the void, as if it wanted to split the sky into two. The powerful seven-colored tribulation lightning beam collided with the streak of light, and as expected, it was split in half. The remaining light did not diminish in power. It split the dark clouds in the sky into two. Jun Xiaoyaro broke the seven-colored thunder tribulation of sainthood with just one move. In the entire immortal ancient Dao Lake, only Princess Longji and Lei Mingyuan saw this. If anyone else saw this, they would be so shocked that their hearts would explode. This was beyond their imagination. In the sky, after the rainbow lightning tribulation was broken, lightning continued to gather and rumble, preparing for the next attack. Jun Xiaoyaro stood in the void with his hands behind his back. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were full of enlightenment. I've finally succeeded. This is Jun Xiaoyao's self-created move, Genesis. Jun Xiaoyaro had an epiphany. The move he created was not just one move, but a set of moves. This set of mystiques was named Genesis. Because he created the primal chaos and created the universe, just like Genesis. And this wisp of light was only the first move of Genesis. Jun Xiaoyaro named it, God's Light. Because God said, "Let there be light." This move was Genesis, God's Light. And this move would become Jun Xiaoyao's absolute trump card. Most importantly, Jun Xiaoyaro would be able to perfect the Genesis era in the future, making it a truly legendary spell. Genesis is my origin great path move, Jun Xiaoyaro murmured. This was a move created by combining his Dao with the power of the universe's origin. Naturally, it was a origin great path move. Rumble. In the sky, the rainbow lightning tribulation gathered again. Jun Xiaoyaro did not intend to break it with God's light. What a coincidence. This lightning calamity will help me make a breakthrough. Jun Xiaoyaro smirked. Faced with the rainbow lightning tribulation that would make even a quasi-sage pale, Jun Xiaoyaro was calm and composed. Because his Dao was his own Dao. So every time he had a breakthrough in his Dao, he would attract all kinds of heavenly punishment tribulations. But Jun Xiaoyaro did not care at all. He could even use it as his own resources to transform himself. The rainbow lightning pillar struck. Jun Xiaoyao's body shook as he activated the immortal Deluo immortal body. At the same time, a body immortal chi appeared and wrapped around his body. The sacred body of the ancients, the immortal Deluo immortal body, and the body immortal chi. Even the seven-colored tribulation of sanctification would not be able to kill him. Jun Xiaoyao's entire body was submerged in the rainbow lightning tribulation. Princess Longji and Lei Mingyuan, on the other hand, were stunned. Who would have thought that a true God realm prodigy would actually start transcending the seven-colored ascension lightning tribulation? This world was crazy. Is he still human? Princess Longji murmured as if she had lost her soul. Lord Son of God is not human. Lei Mingyuan swallowed hard. Even a wisp of that level of tribulation lightning would be enough to kill him, a genius with the heavenly lightning body. Jun Xiaoyaro bathed in the rainbow lightning tribulation, but the terrifying tribulation lightning could not harm him at all. Jun Xiaoyao's body became even more perfect after being refined by the tribulation lightning. At the same time, the remaining energy of the immortal remnant blood in Jun Xiaoyao's body caused Jun Xiaoyao's aura to rise. And the draconic elephant particles in his body were also turning into elemental elephant particles. All in all, Jun Xiaoyaro was improving rapidly in all aspects. Unsurprisingly, he broke through the bottleneck of the peak true god realm. Jun Xiaoyaro had reached the heavenly god realm, but the heavenly god realm was not the end. Jun Xiaoyaro not only had the energy of the immortal remnant blood, but also the rainbow lightning tribulation lightning. Naturally, he could not just advance by one level. Early heavenly god realm, mid-stage heavenly god realm, late stage heavenly god realm, first stage heavenly god realm, first stage heavenly god realm. After reaching the first stage heavenly god realm, Jun Xiaoyao's cultivation stagnated, as if he had encountered some kind of barrier. Each of the 9 levels of the sage realm was a huge threshold. Without great luck, it was very difficult to break through. Even an ancient freak would not have an easy time breaking through to the Tao God realm. But now, Jun Xiaoyao's body shuddered as he yelled coldly. Break! Boom! A loud explosion shook the world. Runes of the way spread all over Jun Xiaoyao's body. All sorts of runes flickered and flickered around him. Jun Xiaoyaro walked on the path, emanating an unparalleled aura of the Great Path. He had broken through to the Tao God realm. Chapter 449. Countless Tao runes were spreading under Jun Xiaoyao's feet. In the void around him, there were countless talisman civilizations flickering indeterminately. Jun Xiaoyaro was currently emitting a transcendental aura, as if he was the embodiment of the great Tao. It was the symbol of the Tao God realm. Jun Xiaoyaro had broken through to the Tao God realm from the peak stage of the true God realm. If news of the breakthrough were to spread, many people would be dumbfounded and start doubting their own existence. After all, Jun Xiaoyaro had skipped an entire level. It was impossible for others to make breakthroughs like Jun Xiaoyaro did, where it was as simple as eating and drinking. Besides, that was not all Jun Xiaoyao's benefits. The dragon elephant particles in his body had been refined by the power of the blood of the remnant immortal and the 7-colored tribulation. They had all turned into elemental particles. In other words, Jun Xiaoyaro now had 100,000 elemental particles in his body. His soul power had increased by 10 times too. He could fully utilize the power of the gates of hell. Following this, Jun Xiaoyaro would turn the elemental particles into real elemental particles. His strength of the hell-crushing divine elephant would reach the greater success stage. By then, Jun Xiaoyao's physical strength would have skyrocketed yet again. It would unlock new abilities too. Jun Xiaoyao's improvement was comprehensive. His cultivation, flesh, and soul power had all improved significantly. The range and ability of his dharmic power immunity had increased too. Most importantly, he had comprehended his own divine ability of the origin Great Tao, the era of Genesis. This was an absolutely powerful killing move, the kind that no one had ever used before. On top of that, the origin force of the universe in Jun Xiaoyao's God's origin had grown stronger after absorbing the power of the blood of the remnant immortal. It felt like the origin had turned into a placenta that was giving birth to a universe. The rules of the world and the universe were under Jun Xiaoyao's control. It was his Tao. It had nothing to do with the rules of the 9 heavens immortal realm or the other worlds. When the divine origin transforms in the future, it might form a domain and expand it to eventually give birth to a true world, Jun Xiaoyaro muttered to himself. He was looking forward to the moment when his Tao completely transformed. What would happen if the universe that the god's origin eventually evolved into was comparable to the 9 heavens immortal realm, or even devoured it? Jun Xiaoyaro would most likely become the supreme god that ruled over the immortal realm. In Jun Xiaoyao's eyes, the flames of ambition were rising. He had always been an ambitious and ruthless character. His only goal was to reach the peak and suppress an era, or even countless eras. He wanted billions of living beings to praise his true name. It's about time. With my current strength, the 7-colored sanctification tribulation is no longer a threat to me. Jun Xiaoyaro chuckled. At the true God realm, even the 7-colored lightning tribulation was unable to do anything to him. Not to mention that Jun Xiaoyaro had already broken through to the Tao God realm, a mere tribulation to become a saint was basically no threat to him. Jun Xiaoyaro waved his hand and unleashed his power to disperse the dark clouds in the sky. The 7-colored lightning tribulation unwillingly dissipated too. The world regained its clarity. In the light, Jun Xiaoyaro stepped out of the sky like the son of a god. Jun Xiaoyaro had benefited a lot from the seclusion. He had obtained the primordial power of the 7 dragons and reconstructed the 7-colored sacred dragon armor. He had completely mastered the first half of the Physique scripture, the immortal body of the great all-embracing heaven, and even refined a wisp of flesh immortal qi. Now, Jun Xiaoyaro had broken through to the Tao God realm. The divine origin in his body had improved significantly, and the origin force of the universe had skyrocketed. He had also comprehended the divine ability of the great Tao of origin, the Genesis era. The strength of the hell-crushing divine elephant had also refined 100,000 elemental granules. In other words, Jun Xiaoyao's current strength had completely crushed his previous self. Previously, I said that after I came out of seclusion, I would have no problem dominating the immortal ancient. Now, it seems that I still underestimated myself. Jun Xiaoyaro sighed and smiled. Sweeping through all the geniuses of the immortal ancient was a piece of cake for Jun Xiaoyaro. It couldn't be any easier. Jun Xiaoyaro left the seclusion grounds. He looked over and saw Princess Longji and Lei Mingyuan, who were in a daze. Jun Mulin and the others were nowhere to be seen. Jun Xiaoyaro was not surprised to see the aura emanating from both of them. Lei Mingyuan had refined the lightning beast's remains, so it was not strange for him to have such strength. Princess Longji had refined the dragon's corpse, and with her own ancient freak foundation, it was not difficult for her to break through to the heavenly god realm. Seeing Jun Xiaoyao's arrival, Princess Longji's expression was unprecedentedly complicated. That was the 7-colored ascension lightning tribulation? Princess Longji was still in disbelief. So what? It's just a lightning tribulation, Jun Xiaoyaro said nonchalantly. Princess Longji's cheeks twitched slightly. Jun Xiaoyaro was probably the only person who could say something like that without a care in the world. Then, sensing Jun Xiaoyao's unfathomable aura, Princess Longji said with difficulty, "Your strength." "Tao immortal realm," Jun Xiaoyaro said directly. There was nothing to hide. Hiss. On the side, Lei Mingyuan's mind shook and he sucked in a breath of cold air. Motherf***K, this is heaven-defying. Crossing 1 major realm and 5 minor realms in a single seclusion. Is he still human? Princess Longji's body trembled as well. Her heart felt cold, as if she had fallen into an ice cave. She thought that she had finally surpassed Jun Xiaoyaro after breaking through to the mid-stage heavenly god realm. But now, not only did Jun Xiaoyaro surpass her, he was even suppressing her. The difference between the heavenly god realm and Tao immortal realm was like heaven and earth. Not to mention, Jun Xiaoyaro had the ability to challenge those of a higher realm. Princess Longji could not imagine just how powerful Jun Xiaoyaro was now. And then there was the light Jun Xiaoyaro used to split the lightning pillar. That terrifying move made her feel like she was facing death. "What, are you surprised?" "I think this is perfectly normal," Jun Xiaoyaro said calmly. Jun Xiaoyaro was not trying to be pretentious, but it was the truth. Jun Xiaoyaro was already used to breaking through several major realms in one go. Now that he could only break through 1 major realm, he was a little annoyed. Of course, one of the main reasons for that was that Jun Xiaoyaro required far more resources and energy to make breakthroughs than the other geniuses. And a large portion of the remnant immortal's blood's energy had been absorbed by the origin of God. Otherwise, Jun Xiaoyaro would not have only broken through to the Tao immortal realm. He might even break through to the pre-saint realm. Princess Longji was rendered completely speechless by Jun Xiaoyao's provocative words. "You surprise me. I thought you would leave immediately after breaking through to the heavenly god realm, or cause trouble for me." Jun Xiaoyaro smiled faintly. If Princess Longji was really that stubborn, Jun Xiaoyaro would have no choice but to kill this disobedient steed. Princess Longji felt a shiver of fear. Luckily, she kept her promise and did not act rashly. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. "In your eyes, do I look like someone who doesn't keep her word?" Although she had this thought, Princess Longji would never admit it. "Not bad, you deserve my encouragement." Jun Xiaoyaro walked up to Princess Longji and patted her head. Princess Longji was dumbfounded by the head patting. Jun Xiaoyaro was really treating her like a pet. A strange feeling spread through Princess Longji's heart. She realized that she didn't resist too much. Of course, to a large extent, it was because there was no point in resisting. Jun Xiaoyaro was too powerful. She could only be played around like a pet. What was the saying again? Since she couldn't resist, she might as well enjoy it. Jun Xiaoyaro didn't have any special intentions. He was simply comforting his steed, like petting a cat or a dog. Just then, Lei Mingyuan thought of something important and reported to Jun Xiaoyaro. Jun Xiaoyaro did not appear to be angered after hearing what Yi Futian had to say. His expression remained cold and detached. Ants united are still ants. Since they want to die so badly, I, the Son of God, will grant them their wish. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding world suddenly darkened, and a cold killing intent howled like a gale. In an instant, the sky changed color. This was the power of a Tao immortal. Chapter 450. Jun Xiaoyaro had thought that the Archean royalty would not be so obedient in the immortal ancient world. However, he did not expect them to be so bold. Hunting down the Jun family's ancient freak was asking for death. Good, it's time to settle the score. Jun Xiaoyaro smiled. That smile was very familiar. It was the smile of the devil. Jun Xiaoyaro smiled. He was going to lose his life. Sensing the murderous intent between heaven and earth, even Princess Longji couldn't help but shudder. Jun Xiaoyaro was like a big boss coming out of seclusion. His aura was terrifying. Before Jun Xiaoyaro went into seclusion, Princess Longji still had the desire to fight. At that moment, Princess Longji was truly helpless against Jun Xiaoyaro. She felt like she was resigned to her fate. Compared to anyone else, Jun Xiaoyaro was the last person he wanted to compare himself with. Longji, head to the ancient spiritual land, Jun Xiaoyaro said calmly. Princess Longji gritted her teeth. However, in the end, she had no choice. Her body shook and light surged. She turned into a fairy dragon. Jun Xiaoyaro stood on the fairy dragon's head and looked in the direction of the ancient spiritual land. His eyes were filled with endless murderous intent. It had begun. It was time to kill. Inside the ancient spiritual land. The Xiantian mountain range was also a treasure ground in the ancient spiritual land. Spiritual qi was dense. As far as the eye could see, the mountain range rose and fell like a dragon's spine. Jade grass was everywhere. Many geniuses were looking for opportunities in the mountain range. Just then, some geniuses sensed something and looked into the distance. Their gazes instantly froze. They saw a group of people coming from the sky. Each of them had a strong aura. They had the aura of a heavenly god. It's the forbidden first generation from Zulong. Didn't he lose to the Jun family's son of God? Why is his aura so terrifying? And the Phoenix child and Phoenix maiden from the Wanhuang spiritual mountain, it's the Qilin son of the ancient Qilin cave. Before this, I heard that he was defeated by the dual-pupiled Jun Lingtsang. But now, it seems that he is still as unfathomable as ever. Why are all these Archean royalty geniuses together? Many sky prides were dumbfounded. They knew that something big was about to happen. At the same time, another team arrived from another direction of the mysterious Heaven Mountain range. This team was even more terrifying. It's Little Witch God and Heavenly Eye Holy Child. Immortal Ancients young kings actually joined hands. And that black-robed man, his aura is too terrifying. Could he be the legendary ancient freak from the fallen god palace, the underworld prince? This group also attracted the attention of everyone. Why are they all gathered together? At this moment, in the void, other than the two teams, there were some other powerful auras observing from the shadows. The one who spoke was a green-clothed man with a green-colored longsword on his back. That is Yi Nantian, an ancient freak from the Yi family of the ancients. Some sky prides were shocked when they saw the green-clothed man. This time, Yi Guchen, the reincarnation of the sword demon of the Yi family of the ancients, did not enter the immortal ancient. But an ancient freak from the Yi family of the ancients had awakened. He was also confused about the current situation. On the other side, in the void, a green-clothed woman sat cross-legged on a lotus platform. Her entire body was shrouded in immortal light and daoist rhymes. She had an otherworldly aura. Her face was shrouded in immortal light, and she wore a thin veil. Only a pair of crystal-clear eyes could be seen. This figure was Ji Qingyi from the Ji family. Her temperament was like a blooming green lotus, untainted by dust and aloof from the world. Beside her stood a young man. He had the appearance of a dragon and the aura of a phoenix. He was also in the heavenly god realm. That young man was an ancient freak from the Ji family who was in hibernation. His name was Ji Changkong. Interesting. These powerful existences have actually joined forces. Ji Changkong smiled faintly. Previously, I vaguely received news that 2 of the Jun family's ancient freaks have already fallen, Ji Qingyi said. TSK, what a pity. They were killed before they even appeared. This time, the Jun family must have been beaten silly. Ji Changkong shook his head. However, as long as Jun Xiaoyaro is here, the fall of the Jun family's ancient freaks is not a big deal, Ji Qingyi said. Hearing this, Ji Changkong frowned slightly and said, Qingyi, is the Jun family's son of God really that powerful? As an ancient freak from the Ji family, Ji Changkong was naturally arrogant. He also did not believe that there would be such a heaven-defying existence among the current generation's geniuses. Even the ancient freaks were not his match. That's because you haven't seen it with your own eyes, Ji Qingyi muttered. She recalled the scene in the lower realm when Jun Xiaoyaro created his own great Tao. Under no circumstances could she underestimate Jun Xiaoyaro. Haha, I wonder if I'll have the chance to see it with my own eyes this time. Ji Changkong casually smiled, seemingly unconcerned. And in another direction, in the void, a petite girl wearing a short black skirt, Linglong, appeared. Her hair was tied up in 2 buns. Her eyebrows were thin, her eyes were bright, her nose was high, and her lips were bright red. Her chest was ordinary, and under her short skirt was a pair of slender, snow-white legs. They were very eye-catching, and there was a string of golden bells on her ankles that occasionally emitted crisp sounds. The young girl was as pure and cute as a porcelain doll. But within her cuteness, there was also a trace of charm. This strange temperament caused her to become the center of attention. It's the celestial demon cult's Xiao Moxian. Seeing the black-dressed lowly, the eyes of the surrounding geniuses brightened. Xiao Moxian was a famous little demoness. Aya, the Jun family is really out of luck this time. But why hasn't little big brother Xiaoyaro appeared yet? Xiao Moxian's large eyes darted around. The scene of her and Jun Xiaoyaro talking about each other in the lower realm was still vivid in her mind. Xiao Moxian was also distressed. This time, should she watch as an outsider, or should she join in? Let's wait and see first. Xiao Moxian did not act rashly. This time, the Jun family's opponent was not one force, but a group of forces. If she rashly joined in, she might drag herself into the abyss. In the end, the 2 groups of encirclement teams converged together. In the situation where the powerhouses of the immortal ancient races were unable to leave their ancestral lands, this team could be said to be the strongest force in the entire immortal ancient. It was enough to sweep through the entire immortal ancient. It seems that everyone is here. The underworld prince looked around and said. All the geniuses were a little shocked after feeling the pressure from the underworld prince. Even Long Outyen's eyes flashed. The underworld prince's aura made him feel an extreme threat. But now, they all had the same goal, so nothing bad would happen. It's about time. The location of the last ancient freak of the Jun family should be in the depths of the mysterious Heaven Mountain range. Jiyu Chanzi said. Good. Let's go directly. The underworld prince said coldly. He was a little impatient. Aren't we going to set up the array in advance? Someone asked. Is there a need? The underworld prince said indifferently. Everyone thought about it and felt that it was true. With so many geniuses gathered together, there were also the young kings of the immortal ancient and the ancient freaks. If they could not deal with an ancient freak of the Jun family who had just awakened, that would be a disgrace. Soon, the team went deep into the mysterious Heaven Mountain range. A large group of geniuses from various forces followed behind, all of them watching the show. They were very curious. Could the last ancient freak of the Jun family still have a way out? Chapter 451. In the depths of the Shentian mountain range, the spiritual chi was as vast as a dragon. A team stepped across the sky. The aura of each of them was enough to make one shudder. This should be the place. Jiyu Chanzi stopped and looked into the distance. There were 9 mountain ranges, and the spiritual chi was as dense as mist. This was a rare dragon's lair. Yes, this terrain is the 9 dragons' pilgrimage. It is most suitable for nurturing ancient freaks. The last ancient freak of the Jun family must be here, Jiyu Chanzi said confidently. If that is the case, what are we waiting for? The underworld prince was the first to step forward. He made his move without hesitation. Terrifying underworld chi surged out and turned into a pitch-black seal. As the seal formed, there seemed to be the wailing of thousands of ghosts between heaven and earth. Limitless death seal. The underworld prince's seal smashed down like a curtain of night. The entire mysterious heaven mountain range trembled and rumbled. The mountain range broke, rocks rolled, and the earth collapsed. This fluctuation was extremely terrifying. It was as if the underworld king's palm could destroy the world. What a powerful technique! Whether it was the people in the team of Kingslayers or the geniuses of various forces watching from afar, they were all shocked. The prince of the underworld deity could easily kill any true god realm prodigy. Even those in the early stage of the heavenly god realm wouldn't dare to take it head-on. Rumble. The entire mountain range seemed to be about to be destroyed. The ground also cracked open, forming a 1,000-meter-long crack. However, there was an endless amount of golden light spreading out from the cracks. A golden array could be vaguely seen. It turned into a golden light shield that covered the ground. There is an array. The underworld prince raised his eyebrows slightly. However, the others were very excited. This array meant that the last ancient freak of the Jun family was indeed here. Break this array and kill the last ancient freak of the Jun family. Long Outyen's eyes shone brightly. That's right. Kill the ancient freak of the Jun family first, then the sequence of the Jun family. Finally, kill the son of God of the Jun family, Jun Xiaoyaro. Huang Tiange also shouted coldly. All the forces that were hostile to the Jun family were in high spirits. The Jun family would be wiped out in the immortal ancient world. At this moment, an incomparably cold voice suddenly sounded from the distant sky. Who gave you the courage to say such ignorant words? In the entire 9 heavens and 10 earths, who dares to destroy my Jun family? As he spoke, a group of figures arrived. At a glance, 7 transcendental figures were standing in a straight line in the sky. They were like 7 heavenly gods, bringing with them an oppressive aura that could shake one's soul. They were the remaining 7 sequences of the Jun family. The presence of the 7 sequences of the Jun family was enough to make the void boil. It's the sequences of the Jun family. In the distance, many of the spectating sky prides were excited. On one side were the geniuses of the Archean royalty, and on the other side were the 7 sequences of the Jun family. This scene was going to be interesting. Everyone looked at the sequence 7 of the Jun family with a look of horror in their eyes. There was no other reason other than the fact that the Jun family's sequences were improving too quickly. The leader of the sequence 1, Jun Lingsang, had a cultivation base of middle stage heavenly god. The sequence 2, Jun Wushuang, and the sequence 3, Jun Mulan, had both reached the early stage heavenly god stage. The remaining 4, Jun Wanjie, Jun Shuahuang, Jun Shiyu, and Jun Zhanjian, were all at the small completion or great completion of the true god stage. It could be said that the 7 sequences of the Jun family were extremely outstanding. The Jun family's sequences are too strong. If they can get through this safely, their future will be limitless. Someone sighed. I don't think it's going to work. Although the sequences of the Jun family are here, they can't change the situation. Some of the sharper ones could see it. Among the 7 sequences of the Jun family, there were 3 heavenly gods. However, there were more heavenly gods in the Kingslayers team. Long Outyen, Feng Luofei, Huang Tiange, and Shiline's son were all heavenly gods, and there were middle-stage heavenly gods among them. There were also the 3 young kings of the immortal ancient world, Ao Guang, Little Witch God, and the heavenly eye saint, who were all late-stage heavenly gods. There was also the underworld prince, an ancient freak with terrifying strength, who was even more frightening. In addition, there were many geniuses of the far ancient royal families around. It was unrealistic for the Jun family's sequences to fight against them. However, Jun Lingsang and the other sequences did not show the slightest bit of fear on their faces. There was only endless murderous intent and fighting spirit. Seeing the arrival of the Jun family's sequences, Long Outyen and the other geniuses of the Archean royalty were not too surprised. After all, they had already killed 2 of the ancient freaks of the Jun family, and the remaining one would be killed soon. The outcome was already decided. It was better to say that the arrival of the Jun family's sequences was just the right time to wipe them all out. Chiline's son stepped out. He had a purple Chiline horn on his head and wore a purple Chiline armor. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes as he said, "Jun Lingsang, are you here to walk into a trap? A loser like you still dares to bark?" Jun Lingsang's face was indifferent. Hearing this, Chiline's son's face suddenly turned cold. He said in a cold voice, "I was just too lazy to use my full strength before. Jun Lingsang, since you want to die so much, we will fulfill your wish." "How dare you? I will kill you with my sword." Jun Mulan raised her eyebrows, holding a heavy sword in her hand. The blood of the god of war in her body was boiling. "Are you looking down on us, the immortal ancient kings?" Ao Guang, the crown prince of the dragon human race, stepped out. His golden hair was loose, and his handsome face was like a god of light, making people have the urge to worship him. As he stepped out, the little witch god of the ancient witch race and the heavenly eye saint of the three-eyed sacred race also stepped out. In an instant, the aura of the 3 young kings of the immortal ancient kingdoms surged. Those were 3 terrifying geniuses of the late heavenly god realm. Even the hot-tempered Jun Mulan could not help but change her expression as she felt a great pressure. At this moment, a soft voice was heard. "Ao Guang, when did you get involved in the battle of geniuses of the outside world?" As this voice sounded, a group of people arrived. The woman who spoke was wearing a 100-flower silk dress. Her skin was as white as porcelain, and her eyes were as clear as autumn waters. She was one of the 4 great races of the immortal ancient immortal race, the young king of the beauty race, Li Qiushirei. Beside her stood Jiang Shengyi, Jiang Luoli, Jiang Chuhan, Jiang Shuling, and other geniuses of the Jiang family. That's the young king of the beauty race, and the Jiang family's goddess. As expected, I knew that no matter how arrogant the Jun family is, they wouldn't be so stupid as to send a few people to their deaths. Whispers and discussions could be heard from all directions. TSK, I didn't expect the Jiang family to also come. However, even if they managed to win over the young king of the beauty race, they are still at a disadvantage. Xiao Moxian shook her head as she watched the battle from afar. "Humph, Li Qiushirei, I advise you not to interfere. You should know that we have 3 people on our side," the heavenly eye saint said indifferently. He had casually killed one of the Jun family's echelon sequences before. It could be said that he had formed an irreconcilable grudge with the Jun family. They should be here soon. Jiang Shengyi thought to himself. It was also at this moment that another figure appeared in the distant sky. That terrifying aura had also reached the late heavenly god realm. Since the Jun family is in trouble, how can my Jiang family not help? As this voice sounded, a youth with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes appeared. He held a divine seal in his hand. This was one of the ancient freaks of the Jiang family that had awakened, Jiang Tianyang. Chapter 452. As a clan of the ancients, the Jiang family naturally had some ancient freaks in hibernation. Although they didn't have as many as the 3 from the Jun family, one of them was still hibernating in the ancient spiritual land. It's him, Jiang Tianyang with the divine king body, Ji Changkong, the ancient freak from the Ji family, said in surprise. "You know him?" Ji Qingyi asked. "That's right. Although I'm not from the same era as him, I've heard of his name before. He has the divine king body and descended with a divine seal. I didn't expect him to wake up," Ji Changkong said. "Oh, only one ancient freak." Ao Guang and the others' expressions changed slightly, but not much. Compared to the Kingslayer team, Having one more ancient freak wasn't a big deal. At this moment, another sigh could be heard from the other side of the sky. Ah, you could have messed with anyone, but you had to mess with the Jun family. As soon as he finished speaking, 4 figures appeared. They were Wang Chuan, Yi Yu, Yang Qingying, and the 9-headed lion. It's Wang Chuan, the saint of the reincarnation demon sect. Although he was enslaved by the son of God of the Jun family, he's still a terrifying ancient freak. And Yi Yu. Although he's a follower of the son of God of the Jun family, it's rumored that he might be a descendant of a monarch clan from another mystic realm. Yang Qingying is also very powerful. She has the god-swallowing demonic technique. Even the Lady Buddha of the Little Western Paradise and the saintess of the sacred sect were devoured by her. The 9-headed lion is also a top far ancient royal, but he's been loyal to the son of God of the Jun family since then. With the arrival of Jun Xiaoyaro and his followers, the crowd was in an uproar again. Because these geniuses suddenly realized. Even Jun Xiaoyao's followers had become so powerful. The addition of Wang Chuan, Yi Yu, and the others made many geniuses from the Kingslayer team change their expressions. But that wasn't all. Another group of figures appeared in the sky in the distance. The one leading the group was a gorgeous woman in a silk dress. She wore a cold expression. It was the eldest princess of the Panwu Jin dynasty, Wu Mingyu. People from the Panwu Jin dynasty have also come? Many people were astonished. They didn't expect that the Panwu Jin dynasty, who had conflicts with the Jun family, would help them. Of course, many people also thought that it was probably because of the eldest princess, Wu Mingyu. Otherwise, the Panwu Jin dynasty would never help the Jun family. On the other side, another group of people arrived. The woman in the lead was the Holy Virgin of the Holy Spirit College, Hua Shiqing. Holy Spirit College is here too. This time, all sides were shaken. Another top-level academy arrived. Jun Xiaoyaro is the holy son of our Holy Spirit College. We can't turn a blind eye to this, Hua Shiqing said indifferently. The rest, including Su Ziqiang from the Purple Mansion Sacred Ground, and other forces affiliated with the Jun family also arrived. This time, the expressions of many geniuses in the Lord Slayer's team changed completely. They originally thought that it was a group of forces ganging up on the Jun family. But now, it had turned into a group fight. Even Long Aotian's expression changed when he saw so many forces and geniuses arrive. But when he thought of the strength of this side, Long Aotian was still calm. Haha, the Jun family is quite impressive. Suddenly, the sky darkened. Countless crows appeared in the sky and turned into a demonic man in a black feather robe. Beside him stood a woman with a perfect face. These two were the ancient freak Wu Shuo from the Demon God Palace and Yang Rumeng. That must be the ancient freak from the Demon God Palace, Crow of Calamity Wu Shuo. But judging from his attitude, he should be on the Archean royalty's side. Is Jun Xiaoyaro not here yet? Today, I, Wu Shuo, will make him kneel before me and beg for forgiveness, Wu Shuo said with a voice as sharp as a crow's. Jun Xuehuang, Jun Zhanjian, and the others shouted angrily, "How dare you? You don't even deserve to clean my young master's shoes." In their hearts, even the ancient freak was not as good as Jun Xiaoyaro. Haha, it doesn't matter. I'll kill you first, then Jun Xiaoyaro, Wu Shuo said with a sinister look. Yang Rumeng, who was standing at the side, felt a little uneasy. Just when the whole atmosphere was filled with a strong smell of gunpowder, a voice rang out. Another figure stepped forward. It was a young man who was tall, handsome, and had the bearing of a dragon and the appearance of a phoenix. His skin was like jade and there was a divine glow in it. He looked like he was protected by the heavenly Tao. 4 auspicious spirits surrounded him. A true dragon soared into the sky, a phoenix cried, a Chilean stepped on the sea, and a black tortoise carried a mountain. His entire body was enveloped in light, as if the heavenly emperor had descended. It was Wang Teng, the young master of the Wang family. The young master of the Wang family is here too. Seems like he's targeting the Jun family as well. Jiang Shengyi saw Wang Teng arrive. Her beautiful eyes were filled with extreme coldness. You had a part in this plan too, Jiang Shengyi said coldly. Jiang Shengyi, I'll let you know who's better between Jun Xiaoyaro and me, Wang Ting said with a faint smile. In his plan, he would kill all the ancient freaks of the Jun family and the sequence of the Jun family. Then he would kill Jun Xiaoyao. I'll break this array. You guys deal with those people, the prince of the underworld said. He was a straightforward person and didn't want to waste time. He immediately attacked the array under the ground again. How dare you? Jun Lingtsang and the other echelon cultivators also made their moves. You want to save the last ancient freak of the Jun family? Impossible. Long Outyen, Ao Luan, Long Bichi, Qilin, Feng Luofei, Huang Tiange, and the others also attacked. Let's go. Jiang Shengyi and the other members of the Jiang family attacked. Jiang Shengyi, you'd better stay out of this. Wang Tung smiled faintly and attacked. That's right. The rest of you, stay out of this. The sacred son of the sacred sect also attacked. On the other side, Wang Chuan, Yi Yu, and the ancient freak of the Jiang family, Jiang Tianyang with the divine imprint king body, also attacked. But they were stopped by Ao Guang, little sorcerer god, heavenly eye saint, and Wu Shuo. The outcome has been decided. You can't change anything, Ao Guang said coldly. Hua Shiqing of the Holy Spirit College, Wu Mingyu of the Panwu Jin dynasty, and Su Ziqiong of the Purple Mansion Sacred Ground also attacked. They were greeted by the prides of the far ancient royal families and Jiyu Chanzi of the Celestial Cicada clan. A chaotic battle had broken out. The horror of this battle was indescribable. The entire Shentian mountain range rumbled. On one side were forces such as Zulong, Wanhuang Spirit Mountain, Qilin Ancient Cave, Fallen God Palace, Wang Family of the North, the three immortal ancient races, the Sacred Sect, and the Celestial Cicada clan. On the other side were forces such as the Jun family, Jiang family, Holy Spirit College, Panwu Jin dynasty, Beauty Tribe, and the Purple Mansion Sacred Ground. It could be said that a battle of this level was unheard of and unseen. Almost 80% of the forces in the immortal ancient world were involved. Only a few forces such as the demonic celestial sect, Ji family, and Yi family watched from afar.